Thank you, everybody. I will call the Tuesday, December 9th Select Board meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, tonight's meeting is being broadcast on RCTV as well as Zoom. I will briefly go over the agenda. We're going to have the department budget presentations from library, then facilities, then public services / administrative services, and finance, followed by shared cost, and then a budget summary. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll have a discussion and vote on extension of deadlines for town manager review and notification of contract renewal. And then at 9:10, a vote to approve bond issuance of $68,915,000. And with that, we're on to the library budget, Matt. And
Amy's going to come up and present the library budget.
All right, you guys are all fancy here, but I know how to tonight. So thank you. I think I know everybody. And is Carlo online, or we have at least 4 out of 5 here? But thank you again. Been here before. I've seen most of you before. As soon as we can get, there we go. My name is Amy Lannon. I'm the director of the Reading Public Library. With me here is Michelle Filial. She's the assistant director, and Albert Pless, who's the director of equity. So they are all key parts of how we put our budget together each year. So next slide, please. So we're here to present the level 1 request. As we have a number of presentations to get through, I'll try and go as quickly as I can. But the Reading Public Library provides a vital community space. And it's a set of resources where residents can connect and learn and grow, and they're not required to purchase anything. It's really something, a true third space. We have students that are just left today. We have students studying in quiet areas. We have job seekers that use our computers to find jobs, and families that use the children's room to share books together. So these everyday services reflect our core values, which are education, equity, access, and accountability. Next slide, please. It's service beyond books. While books are very important, we offer a lot more. Last year, we had over 175,000 visitors come through our doors. They came to use our 22 public computers or our free wireless. And we have about 16 wireless sessions every hour that the library is open, and we actually have more sessions than that because our Wi-Fi is available for limited hours outside our normal working hours. So we have people that hang out in the parking lot and either charge their car or use the Wi-Fi, one or the other. They attended some of our 700 community programs. They get help with research and what we call Reader's Advisory, help figuring out what they'd like to learn about or read about. And print, fax, scan important documents. We had almost 20,000 scans and over 32,000, almost 33,000 pages printed at the library last year, in fiscal year 25. We're open when you need us. In FY25, we were open for 3,076 hours. That does include evenings and weekends. We try to be there when people with work schedules are available. And if you're not able to make it to the library, we have online services that are available 24/7, which includes over 84,000 ebooks, over 39,000 e-audiobooks, 30 plus research databases, online tutoring, over 200 digital magazines, test prep. If you know anyone who's getting ready for the GRE, the MCAS, the MCAT, we have a lot of those preparation things. So we have a lot to offer. Next slide, please. The library remains an excellent investment. This is a calculator that I use every year. It's called the, I think it's called I Love You, Your Library, Love Your Library, but it's something that's used through the American Library Association and some other groups put it together. If you look at just the value of the physical circulation, which are the books and other materials, it's over a $5 million value. So that's just every time a book is checked out, or a museum pass is checked out, or a children's DVD is checked out. Those are our physical items. So the value in that is over $5 million. And then you add in things like our digital content, our programs and other services. The value is pretty good. It's about a 315% return on investment. And the easy way to think about that is for every dollar invested into the library, the community gets back about $4.15. So that's my case. In FY25, our budget was 2.1 million. We get about $9 million in value, and we still remain about 1.6% of the entire municipal budget. Next slide, please. So in order to maintain this excellence, we are asking for a 2.7% increase. It's cut off a little bit in the corner there. It's a $59,950 total increase. The budget would be $2,320,000. The trustees did see this and approve this last night. But I just want to say that, like all of the other people here tonight that are presenting this, even just this last week, but I would say this last budget cycle, but even in the last week, this is really a delicate balance of trying to keep our budget costs low and keep pace with rising costs and keep pace with our staff and services so that we can meet the community needs and expectations. This budget supports fair wages for our staff, supports certification, correct collection, and essential services. Next slide, please. Salaries make up 80% of our budget, and so therefore $52,000 of this increase is going to salaries. I do want to just take a note and say that just like all of our other departments here, the library does pursue available grant opportunities when we can. In fact, in FY25, we received a $20,000 LSTA grant, a Library Services Technology Act grant for green programming and green space improvements. The green space improvements were along the parking lot side of the building. I'm very excited to announce that that's actually now a certified wildlife habitat. It's something that we've been working for. But as I said, most library grants come through federal agencies such as the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the National Endowment for the Humanities, and that LSTA grant was one such grant. So we will continue to pursue those grants as they're available. So, getting back to staffing. So 52,000 of this increase is just for staffing. For 4 months of the year, we have 24.5 full-time equivalents who provide services 6 days a week for 60 hours a week, 6 days and 60 hours a week. And that's across 3 floors of a 40,000 square foot building. I just want to give you a context because a lot of this would be different if we were in a much smaller space. Our FTEs increase to 25.2 in the other 8 months of the year because we add Sunday and we add hours on Sundays. So that dedicated staff is a really great investment. So that's where most of that increase request this year comes from. Next slide, please. Okay, the expense budget breakdown. We are requesting a 1.8% increase. It's $7,590 over FY26 expense budgets. And again, the delicate balance, really trying to be sensitive to the tight budgets that we have, the townwide fiscal constraints. And we are committed to responsible resource management. We know this is a challenging budget cycle. We're trying to manage cost. So this budget really it reduces some funds or level funds certain things so that we can accommodate, like I said, to keep pace with increased costs. Our library materials appropriation must go up a certain percentage. If you see it going up 2.6, that is equivalent roughly to our whole over request, which is about 2.7. The materials need to remain at 13% of our overall budget. That's part of our certification requirements. The one increase we have that's rather large is our software licensing agreements. That is something where some of it is a few of our specialized softwares are going up, but the majority of it, and remember it's the majority of $79,000, which isn't a heck of a lot, so I think it's like $4,000 or $5,000, is going to one contract that gets renewed every 3 years. So there's a particular bump this year we're therefore cutting things in professional development, we're cutting things in supplies, we're cutting things in public technology. That is different than the technology that Kevin presents in a much funnier way than I can present. But it's technology. The town does not pay for the computers that the public uses, the library pays for those. So, and that goes to, part of our municipal appropriation requirement, which helps us stay certified. So we're cutting that, which means we'll make some of those public computers stretch a little bit longer. I think everything's up to Windows 11, which is good. but just like Kevin, we do have to maintain certain security protocols. There's certain software licenses that come with that we need to kind of follow up for this year. Okay, and the last item on that list is OESJ expenses. And if you go to the next slide, Maddie. Thank you. It may look a little bit familiar, but it's a little bit different. I won't go over it in detail. This particular slide is in your packets. Albert is here if you have questions about it, but as you know, one of the things he is continuing we are continuing with this office within the library. We are continuing with a lot of the projects that we discussed last year, including large community events. We've also done youth listening sessions with the coalition and the Reading Public Schools. We've been working a lot, Albert particularly has been working a lot with employees, and this year, just within this fiscal year, has been assigned or appointed as the ADA coordinator, and that's a role that he's filling out more and taking on a lot more responsibility there. So the funds, I'll be honest, if we'd had if tightness, the budget tightness hadn't been an issue, we probably would have asked for about 3% increase, which is a difference of about $7,500, which we wouldn't had to have cut those other things, and we might have been able to give a little bit more money to our equity and ADA work, although I believe a lot of that we're hoping will come through different resources such as grants and other funding that comes through things having an ADA commission. So we feel like the 1.8% increase in expenses and the overall 2.7% increase to the overall budget is fiscally responsible and will only provide a minimal disruption to our regularly scheduled services. And last slide, please. Just in closing, one of my favorite quotes from Kate Moran: "Library in the middle of a community is a cross between an emergency exit, a life raft, and a festival. Cathedrals of the mind, hospitals of the soul, and theme parks of the imagination." It's more than a building with books, and it's really at the heart of an informed community that connects and thrives. And it's a good investment in our community's future. So, questions?
Thank you, Amy. I believe Carlo's on Zoom now. Carlo, did you have any questions for Amy before I open it up in here?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, for a good presentation. Amy, I've been asking other departments, is there any overtime in any of these salaries?
Yes, we have, well, it's not really considered overtime. Our Sunday budget is in a different bucket than our regular salaries. It is paid at overtime, or premium rates. I don't like to call it overtime. It's at premium rates. It is also, occasionally we have one or two people that have to work overtime, but it's very, very minimal. Those funds are really reserved for Sundays. Or, I know we've talked about this here, when you have someone who has to work the Fall Street Fair and they're working a whole extra day and they just work 5 days, like that just works. They just worked a full work week. It seems appropriate to compensate them for doing that extra work. That doesn't happen very often. By and large, the fund that says on our budget line, when you see it, it should actually say Sundays, but that's what we use for overtime. It's a small amount of money.
No, I understand that part. Thank you. Do you have any idea? So, given you have a good mix of part-timers and full-timers, are there certain, and I apologize for not knowing this, are there certain requirements of staff when you're open, like who needs to be there, or can Sundays be covered by anybody?
Sundays are covered by anybody. And for people obviously who are full-time, it's automatically going to be at a premium rate. For people who are part-time, it's also a voluntary. do have the authority to call people in to basically work mandatory overtime or mandatory Sundays. It is a premium rate. I don't know if that answers your question, but we don't have it. We have a staffing requirement in terms of the number of people that need to be in the building for security purposes.
Oh, okay, see, that was part of it, yeah, that part I already knew. I'm just wondering if there was certain positions needed.
No,
I know
no.
you're not, and like, different titles that need to be there to be open, that's all.
Not particularly, no. We have a mix of exempt, mostly non-exempt staff. We have a few exempt staff because they're exempt and they don't get overtime. If they work a Sunday, they generally will take some comp time. Maybe take a Monday morning off or something like that if they've worked a Sunday because they're not eligible for overtime.
Okay, and then re-educate me, we're closed Sundays in the summer? Is that the
Yeah,
deadline?
so we're only open on Sunday. I say only, it's actually 8 months out of the year from October through May. So after the school year begins and a little bit before it ends, so.
All right, so I guess I would just say in closing that, what we're looking down the road of operational budgets, for the 2 new buildings, and the library is a big building, as you stated. If we could try to, curtail at least the overtime or have part-timers that are working so many hours, just to be mindful. And I know everyone's doing their best, but I think if there's a way you could schedule without having premium pay, I know that would be appreciated by other departments as well, so we can, make it leaner, not leaner, but make it more clean. So we're trying to avoid overtimes. I know sometimes overtime has to happen, like you said, when you're covering these events.
Or we don't have substitutes or something. Yeah, I will say our first recommendation, or our first request, I should say, is when people have to adjust their hours, is that they back it out. So if you have to cover Saturday, can you back it out on Monday? The problem just then becomes if the desk is going to be empty Monday, we can't get a substitute, nobody else can cover. We really don't have to do that very often. Like I said, it's very rare that we have to do that. And it's usually in extenuating circumstances. Like, for example, we have a couple of openings right now, so we're down staff a little bit. We try to fill in with substitutes who are per diems. They don't get overtime. Actually, they get premium pay, but they don't, we try to back everything out. And that even goes for part-time people. So even if you're working a 20-hour week and you're asked to cover an extra shift, the first thing you're going to try and do is back that out of your regular week. If you can't back it out of your regular week, then you might get extra hours above and beyond your regular 20. So that is a practice that we have.
Okay, yeah, just thank you. And what are the 2 positions that we have open?
Well, technically right now we have 1 position open that we're interviewing for. We had someone leave and then a promotion. And then we have 2 retirements coming up in the next 30 days. So we're going to be filling those positions.
Are those full-time or part-time?
One is, actually they're both part-time. So the opening we have now is full-time, but the other 2 openings are part-time.
Okay, all right. And then, again, I don't run the library. Are the 2 part-timers that are going to be leaving / retiring, do they need to be replaced or you want them replaced?
No, 100% they need to be replaced.
Okay, all right. I'm good, thanks.
Board members, any questions? Karen?
Hi, thank you very much. Couple of questions. I'm wondering if you have.
You might want to put it on. Sorry.
Thanks. Okay, thank you. I'm just wondering about all the visits and the uses, whether you have the ability to see which demographics within our community are using the services.
That's a really good question, and it really kind of rides the line of privacy. We have very limited access to how we can use library card data. So I could run a report and say, and we have run a report on demographics to say how many people actually have active library cards. So it's like 12,000 something library cards that are active that haven't expired. Every year, you don't renew your card, it gets expired every so often. So, but 12,000 people have active library cards right now. And we can do, and we have done in the past, or cost, a demographic survey of that. How many empty nesters, how many families, how many people drive luxury cars, how many people live in certain districts of the town. All of that is available for a price. What I can't tell you is what they do. And that's for a very good reason, because it protects their privacy, and part of the Massachusetts laws around libraries is to protect intellectual pursuits. So we are not permitted to actually do anything that has to do with, did you go, whatever. I can tell you we have family programs, we have children's programs, teen programs, and adult programs that are often attended by 20-somethings, programs that are attended by 55 and plus. That's about all I can tell you in terms of that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was thinking, so you have to decide what programming you're gonna offer.
Yeah.
And so if you don't even know, you actually got into more granularity. I was thinking broad swaths.
Yeah.
Our seniors represent 30% of our population. Are they using, I don't know if you could say 30% of library card visits?
Yeah, I don't know that that's
I don't even know
we
if you have
probably
that
could figure
access.
that out, but I don't know that that might be a false equivalency of some sort, meaning just because you're in a certain age demographic, you may not be a primary, you may not be a target audience because you may make over a certain amount of money. So, a lot of what we're trying to do is to get services to people who need them. I can afford to buy a book at White Lambs, but I also like to check books out of the library. So I'm actually probably not the target demographic for some of the people that we're trying to reach. Might be people who aren't very high on the literacy rate, people who maybe English isn't their first language, people who have different lower economic status. So that's what we would want to use our demographic information for, is to make sure that we're meeting those people that we can. We know that we can reach somebody who's a literate, educated, employed person. So we have, we know those general demographics work. We have I have to tell you that Reading is one of the most, I'm sorry, this is like really into time. Sorry, yes. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, no, I mean, we have, I see that prior to Recal opening and given the space constraints at the senior center, it's been serving as a community center.
Yeah.
You guys have to decide what kind of programs you want to run.
Sure.
And so.
Well, I want to give a nod to many people in this room. Yeah. We do work very closely with Elder and Human Services, with Recreation, and, we don't want to duplicate anything. We want to be able to offer things that can launch somebody into something, but nor are we going to offer, micro soccer. We're not going to do that. But we do have registration for cheerleading, and Pop Warner meets at the library. Will they meet at the new Recal? It's depending on the rules or whatever the costs. I'm sure they will.
Getting back to Carlos' point about interesting how you manage the overtime. And Matt, I wanted to ask you, I don't think we've talked about that. It's a fair question for all of the departments. So are other departments able to do that? Reduced overtime?
If I could I just would like to add too that the entire library staff is non-unionized.
We have a non-union library staff. Okay, yep. Well, that's why I'm asking a question. What are the factors?
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for all the department heads, some of them here tonight. We do keep a really close eye on overtime. That's something we use if we need to use it. Obviously, you heard from the fire and the police department last week. That's something they rely on. But it's not handed out sort of willy-nilly. We really look to see if we really need the service, and if so, we put the overtime out there. But otherwise, it's handled during the course of business. Obviously police and fire are a little bit different, DPW somewhat different sometimes, but yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Melissa?
Thank you very much for this presentation. It was very clear and concise. I appreciate it. But I just wanted to say thank you on your expenses. I see that you had a couple things that were going up, and I appreciate that you mitigated some of your other things with going down, so that increase is minimal. When it comes to the $52,000 on salaries, is that for new position? Is that just for increases of current?
Yeah, that's using the current, which is subject to change at any time, I suppose. But the current non-union increase townwide is a step plus a 1.25% COLA. It's for no additional hours.
Okay.
And in fact, there are no increases to our Sunday or premium budget at all. There's no increase to our substitute budget at all. So where we could stay the same, like where it's not actually attached to a human being, those numbers stayed down. And, in the worst case scenarios, we get to be like May 2027, and we're on our last 2 Sundays and we've run out of that premium whatever, and we would come to the select board and say we need $500 to finish the last 2 Sundays. So there's no increase in that. So obviously everybody else's hourly rate will go up, but we're not increasing that. And we're hoping that should be enough to cover all of our premium hours.
Perfect. All right, thank you. That was my only question.
Karen, did you have anything?
I just wanted to say thank you very much. They covered a lot of stuff, but I appreciate how mindful it seems that you were with all your numbers and how you approach things, and thank you for your services.
Thank you very much.
So for me, Amy, yes.
One more person that might have a question. I
Last, you know?
apologize. I'm like, shoot.
Now it's time for the hard questions. First off, I'll say that the visual presentation that you provided is the best one I have ever seen. Not just with budgets, just pretty much in my line of work and anywhere else. I think that everybody, no offense to future people in here in the packet looking like the laser beam thing from high school backgrounds, I have to say, like, everybody should be copying whatever you did for this going forward. Like, there is no second place in any of these budgets, so thank you. In terms of library materials is $301,000. What is an example, again, because that's the biggest number, obviously.
Sure. So that's everything that you can think of that you would download, search, borrow, read. So it includes digital magazines, ebooks, e-audiobooks, includes Hoopla and Canopy, includes all of our databases, our test prep, our tutoring, brain foods tutoring. It includes newspapers of the Boston Globe. It includes the digitization of those newspapers so that they can go onto our Reading archives. We have the Reading Chronicle back to 1860 something, and then whatever it was before that, the Middlesex Journal, maybe back to 1854. All of those have been digitized, so it pays for things like that. So anything that is considered consumable by a patron, those are our materials, and it could be digital or it could be physical.
So it's more, so software licenses are really licenses, but these
Correct.
materials are subscriptions could be included
Right,
in that.
right. And ebooks are very different in the library world than they are in the consumer world. So we only lease them. We don't get them.
And then programs is 3,500.
Yep.
It seems like you have a program like 19 times a day.
Yeah, we do.
So how are you managing to spend
Yeah.
$3,500?
Because that $3,500 was put in, we didn't have a program budget for many years until probably 2018 maybe. Actually, it might have even been later than that. It might have been after COVID. A majority of our programming money comes from the Friends of the Reading Public Library. So it's sort of your PTO. So like the Joshua Eden PTO gets to pay for the Whalemobile to come in or the juggler to come in or something like that. So they do raise funds for that. They also, like many fundraising groups, occasionally have years that they struggle. And they also are very focused. They don't get to select the programs, by the way. We do the programs, they just write us a check. But we may be focusing on early STEM literacy. So that's where all of that children's programming goes. And then all of a sudden we'd like to do a community event, or we're doing a community read, or we want to supplement programming that for our grants. So that grant I mentioned, usually when you get a grant, someone will say, well, what are you guys, we'll give you $20,000. How much are you going to put in? So we have to agree to sort of an in-kind. So that $3,000 or $4,000 would go to additional green programming or things like that. So it's usually for the other things. And we also have some really creative team members that can provide many of our children's, actually not many, I'd probably say 1, 2, we have 3 with their, not only a master's degree in library and information science, but their master's degree in children's literature. And we have a preschool teacher who's taking classes in childhood development. So a lot of their classes that they can offer, whether it's STEM or STEAM or even their early literacy curriculum, they can do in-house. That's not something we have to pay somebody else to do.
So I think going forward, how I mentioned it last week, I think it was the fire department budget, I think it would be helpful for you to put in here that we did $200,000 worth of programs that were done by the Friends of Library or something.
Sure.
Because that to me says more than, I know how you said that we have scanners and pages printed, but I think that actually seeing a realistic number like that and seeing that, you know, that the library's putting this out, the funding is being used for that.
Right.
It's not really 3,500. It could be 200,000. I could be way off.
Right.
But I think that number would be extremely helpful
Okay.
in
Absolutely.
justifying lots of things going forward.
Yeah, and most of that's public information. We file all of the additional funding that we get and spending that we get with the state. It's absolutely possible to get those reports.
And then, so you're at 2.7%, so not terrible.
Terrible.
Compared to 2.5 scenario.
Yeah.
So using the same overtime Sunday metric, do you have data that backs up that Sunday is being utilized as much as it is? Or would you be like, say Mondays, like nobody comes ever? Would you ever justify, I'm just throwing out a Monday. Like, would you ever flip-flop a Monday for a Sunday kind of thing?
Well, I think you could do that. First of all, there's a couple, it's complicated. So let me just start by saying it's complicated because you have people who are on a regular schedule. So if you take out a certain number of hours during the week, so if you didn't have Monday mornings open, you said instead of Mondays, we're going to be open Sundays, and maybe you take away the premium pay. You could save some money, possibly, but you still need to pay that person for the 37.5 hours. The money that you would save in premium pay may not make up for it. Part of the issue, too, is that we, by certification, must be open a minimum of 60 hours a week, or maybe it's 59, which is why we're open 60 hours a week for those other 4 months. The additional hours do get used. Are there hours that during the week? Yes. Unfortunately, when we do those statistics, it's not like Monday mornings or Tuesday nights. It's Monday through Friday between 11:30 and 12 because, you know, or whatever, because people have gone home to take naps and have lunch, and it's before the school kids come in. So it's very difficult to chop the day up that way and have someone come in and change their hours. So it's not a 1-for-1 hour swap because you still need to offer certain services. So the open hours is the number of hours that we're open to the public. That's not necessarily the number of hours we need to get the job done. So, it's kind of a tricky. Does that answer your question, or did I make?
Yeah, no, I was going to equate it to the same thing with the MBTA. Same thing. There's nobody taking trains at noontime. But
Right. I can't not run the train at noon.
Right.
Like I still have to have someone because people do call and people do come in. And I'll say some of the other things when we talk about use. We have people that come in. God, you guys are like, shut up, baby. We do have people that come in, and this time of year particularly, we have some people that come in because it's much less expensive for someone to sit in the library, like just reading the same newspaper over and over and over again for many hours than it is to be at home and pay for heating. And it's the same thing with the summer. Sometimes we have families that come in because it's really hot. So it's hard to express that in terms of a metric, a quantitative metric in terms of use. It's really more of a qualitative value. And to be like, sorry, you got to leave for the next 2 hours because we have to close. So like you said, it's hard to.
No, it's more of if you saw like only 10% of the people come on Mondays and 80 are on Sundays, then obviously, I mean, it seems easy enough right
Hour for hour, I think Sundays may be more use. I think we figured out like maybe it was like Thursdays. There's one day that is less than the others. Most of them are on par. And there's 4 12-hour days and 2 8-hour days plus Sundays. So we try to do it hour for hour, not by day, because we try to figure out, you know. So, but Sundays are per hour for those 4 hours. They do get it gets quite a bit of use.
All right, anybody else? Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on
Facilities,
to
Joe Huggins.
Yep.
Hey, everybody. So we're gonna get started tonight. This is our FY '27 requested budget. Next slide. Just a quick rundown of what we're gonna go through tonight. Of course, if there's any questions as I'm going along, please stop me. Next slide, please. So there's there's three parts of the facilities budget. There's the core facilities budget, which you're looking at the wages right there. Then there's the town facilities budget, and then there's the school facilities budget. The school portion is voted under the school department's budget. We're not gonna be talking about that tonight, but it's worth mentioning that that's part of the organization that we manage. So if you look at this first slide right here, salaries have gone up 4%. That's dictated by union labor contracts. And this is the core facilities. This is the 4 maintenance guys in the shop, as well as the 3 of us in the office. And it also represents 3 non-union people. That's going up 4%. Maintenance overtime is level funded, 0%. I should also mention that there are no new positions being added on the town facility, or the core facilities budget, or the town facilities budget. Next slide, please. So here's what we did. This is the biggest part of our budget, as you can see, is the energy expenses, which are the accommodated cost portion of the budget. And we worked very closely with Sharon and went through, what our usage and our consumption is and where we're spending money. And we reduced that number by 4%. That savings that we generate, it's important to mention that the savings that's generated in that budget, the money is put back into the buildings for major breakdowns or anything like that. It keeps us from having to, request capital in a lot of cases. Or and I can name, you're gonna see a few things that we did with savings from last year's budget. But we've reduced that number. We're at a spot that we feel comfortable reducing that by 4%. The next line down is core maintenance repairs. That includes like plumbing, elevator, fire equipment, pest management, and that went up by 4% just because of the age of the equipment out there in the field across the town. HVAC is up 0%, plumbing 4%, elevator expenses 3%, core fire equipment expense, again, that's fire alarms and fire suppression. The equipment is getting older. For an overall decrease at the bottom line there for expenses of negative 2% in the expense side of the budget. Okay, next slide. So the town buildings is made up of 4 custodial staff that clean the town buildings, as well as outsourced cleaning services for this building you're standing in right now, the Reading Public Library, the police station, and we outsource that because we just don't have enough manpower to do it. So that's been something we've been doing for quite a while, and we do save money doing it this way. So wages have gone up 4%. Again, that's union. And we've level funded the outsourced cleaning service as well as our building supplies for an overall increase of 3%. Next slide. So if you put everything together, lines M91 and M92, which is core in town, we're down negative 1% request for FY27, and that's our ask.
Are you sure?
I'm
Do
sure.
we want to get Kevin in here to provide any humor on this at all, or we're good?
We're good. We're
Okay.
good. We're good this year, but in a couple of years, it's going to be a different story when I come up here and stand here when we have the new buildings, But I think everybody knows that.
Can I ask one quick question?
So if you go to the next slide, please.
Joe, can I
Melissa.
ask you?
Sure, go.
Just one quick question.
Yep.
Sorry, just one quick question. On page, it might be helpful, page 15,
Yeah,
on the core miscellaneous expenses,
yeah.
the FY26 actuals are much higher than what they were budgeted for town meeting. Why would that, how?
Oh, because some of the expenses were not categorized correctly, and we moved them out of another line in
Okay,
there. So
got it.
that's why.
So that's why.
Yes.
So it's, okay, all right,
Yes.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So this next slide right here, we do this every year to give everybody sort of a year-over-year look at where we are and like where the workflow is going. We're up, I think, 174 work orders. And you can see the high school rise / field house because we had the modular moves. fieldhouse floor project going on that we did a lot of the work in-house on both of those projects, so that's why that number is up, but it remains pretty consistent. I'm talking the difference between the work orders year over year. And we get a lot of work done with 4 guys out in the shop, and the rest of the stuff is outsourced through, you know, like HVAC is outsourced right now, you know, and drain cleaning, fire suppression, roofing, things like that is outsourced labor that comes in and does that work for us. But the day-to-day repairs are done by four guys covering over 1.1 million square feet of space. So we get a lot of bang for our buck.
Question?
Sure.
Going back to your earlier point, schools get a lot of activity, so I'm not surprised to see a lot of work orders. And then you mentioned there were also the facilities maintenance expenses covered under the school budget. I was just wondering, how do you apportion that out?
So every building has its own, town and school buildings have their own budget for each one. It's split out by schools, and a lot of it, Sharon could explain this better than me, but a lot of it's because of DESI reporting that we have to report out for their per pupil spending. So we know how much we have allocated for energy at like Barrows, you know, natural gas, water and sewer, and electricity. And we also have, if it has an elevator, we have a line for elevators, and that number is pulled from our contract we have with our elevator company, which is a yearly fee that we pay, along with the other trades, to get to that sweet spot where we budget for every building. So we do know what the spend is at each location.
And then one more question. So we will be seeing a presentation on a school budget as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, but some of this is wrapped up in the school budget.
The only thing that's wrapped up in the school, so the school facilities budget is made up of 18 custodians and a half-time courier. And then outsourced cleaning for the high school and Coolidge Middle School. That's in cleaning supplies. That's what's in there. But all the physical plant maintenance, accommodated cost is under the town core facilities budget. So it's more labor on that side.
So we're not, it's not being presented to us like in 2 different budgets. The same numbers in 2 different budgets? That's what I'm trying to understand.
No, these numbers are strictly town numbers, and what you're gonna see in the school budget is school facilities. It's the custodial staff, the cleaning, and the supplies.
The
That's
4
it.
custodians, which sounds like a really low number, is just for the municipal buildings.
Correct.
Got it.
And then we also outsource some of the cleaning.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You're welcome. And again, this next slide, please. So this just shows you what we do every year with that money that we just talked about. You know, where do we spend the money? And it's to maintain the equipment. You know, rooftop equipment, I'm not gonna go through each one of these, but there's a lot of equipment to maintain. There's a lot of ground to cover. And we have a really robust preventive maintenance program to maintain our equipment, which is kind of like the key to a successful facilities department. If you don't maintain it, and you don't, you know, keep on top of it, you're gonna get into trouble. So, next slide, please. And this is just a breakdown of the department, showing you what we take care of. And like I said, it's myself and Kevin Kabuzzi, our assistant director. We have an admin in the office, and then with the school facilities manager, who is in my office but is paid out of the school budget, reports up to me. Okay, next slide. So I wanted to talk really briefly, like I was mentioning to you folks earlier, where are the savings used when we generate savings? And we don't always have a lot of savings, but sometimes we do. The number one was the Killam modular move, but that was paid for under the Killam project. Fieldhouse floor, we all know, is capital. This third one started process to mitigate the, it says migrate, the Johnson Medicine system over to Tritium. Long and short of the whole thing is we always try to get on the same platforms with technology, so it, you know, across the board. That was paid with savings from our utility budget, okay? So we did the Parker gym floor over. Again, there's another one. We installed a new fire pump at the Parker Middle School. That was like $80,000 for that. And the list goes on. And some of the stuff is small, some of it's bigger. But we do make sure that the money, when we have savings, goes back into the plan, into the physical plan. And we take a lot of pride in doing that. And I think that was it.
Carlo, did you have any questions?
Yes, thank you. So, thank you, Joe. Basically, same question. Other than emergencies, is there a lot of overtime in the budget?
No, in both the town facilities budget and the core facilities, though, it was level funded. Overtime for both of those budgets is used for like 4 major things, right? What do you think? Snow removal, emergencies, weekend emergencies, like if we have a roof leak or a freeze up that could happen, that's where that money's going. Sometimes if we're behind the 8 ball on the core facility side of the fence, which handles the school buildings and the town buildings, if we're behind the 8 ball and we've got something to get done and we need to step on it at the end of the summer and give the guys legitimate overtime to get something done for school to open on time, because that's one of the biggest things we do is open school and provide voting for Laura and graduate kids. But we do hit it with overtime sometimes, but we don't, like Matt said, it's not handed, it's not a reward, it's a necessity when overtime is given out. And that's how, and the budgets are not that big when you think of these guys, what they're making hourly too. So a bad winter, we can run the overtime down into the negative pretty quick.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, no, thank you. And with our new beautiful high school floor, have you forecasted what that's gonna require every few years or every year to maintain it?
Yep. Well, we know that floor, because of the use, is gonna require us to have it sanded every year, which is gonna cost around $8,000 to $9,000 to have that done, I believe. A little less than that. It's already getting a lot of use. The nightly scrubbing of the floor and the maintenance and upkeep of it from that standpoint is covered by our custodial staff and by the outside cleaning company. So there are some increased costs out there, but again, you gotta maintain it. You want it to look good and last.
Yeah, of course. No, I was
Yeah.
just, I know you mentioned that at town meeting and previously, I just wondering if it's, so ballpark, not more than 10 a year, hopefully.
I
roughly.
would think that's accurate, yeah.
Okay, are there any other big, I know we can't talk about, you know, the Center for Active Living yet, but is there any way to, given the size of the building, how much more of your resources, you're gonna have to hire new people?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna be asking for more custodial staff on the town facilities budget for that building because of the use we anticipate it's gonna get. And then also more maintenance staff. We're only doing 4 guys right now. And to cover that building and a new kiln is gonna be a tall order with just 4 guys. So there is an increased cost. I mean, if you look at Killam now, it's 70,000 square feet, or 60,000 square feet. And we're going up to 120,000 square feet in a facility that's gonna get used heavily. And then you look at the Recal building, the new building will be 5 times the size of what they're in right now. So there is gonna be an increase in the operating costs, the accommodating costs, and, labor.
Yeah, no, thank you. And this is what, some of us on the board have been saying that, all these things, great things that we're getting for residents. Not only is the debt and the initial costs, it's the ongoing costs. So I know it's going to be needed, obviously, to keep these buildings up. They're going to be brand new, but when we talk about an override and we talk about budgets, it's a, sometimes a necessity, but I think we're gonna have to do a better job with the budget in the next few years, because I'm guessing we're gonna add, what, 2 or 3 people just on your end alone? I'm guessing, that's what it sounds like?
Yep, it's gonna be probably 2 additional maintenance guys and 2 additional custodial staff.
Yeah, so that's,
And again, it's not all for Recal, it's Killam too.
no.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just trying to, put it out there.
Right, there is, if you wanna maintain that size footprint,
Right,
you're gonna
yeah,
have.
full-time staff, benefits,
Yep.
pensions, all that stuff. So again, like the other departments, everyone is doing their job and the town looks great, but we have to be mindful. I'm not picking on you, Joe, just going forward, we're gonna get hit and pretty hard. So I just, thank you, appreciate it.
Board members, Melissa?
Thank you, Joe, I appreciate it. I just have one question. I'm gonna piggyback on Carlo, and you probably don't have the answer to this, so just tell me, no, I don't know. Do we have a projected operational budget for retail yet?
I didn't, I'll call it like a back of the envelope, but
Okay.
really, we took a hard look at it.
You don't have to give me a number if you're not comfortable with it. but
I have an idea what a number is. I
Okay.
really would rather not say it
That's
right
fine.
now,
Yep,
but I
no.
will tell you that a lot of it's gonna be dictated by what the use looks like in the building.
Absolutely.
Because we
Okay.
can maintain the building, we know what that's gonna cost, if you will.
Mhm.
But how long the building is used every day, how far into the night it's gonna run. These are two fully electric buildings, fully air conditioned.
Mhm.
So we don't have a good benchmark, because other than the library, which is 37,000 square feet,
We don't have anything to compare it to.
it's, it comes at a pretty hefty price tag.
Okay, yeah, and
Yep.
just, Matt, I think that's something we really need to get in front of us, because I think, knowing where we are right now and guessing what the projected costs for operating that building are gonna be, we really need to start having those conversations.
I
Okay,
agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And we can continue to refine that number.
yeah, thank you, Joe, I appreciate it.
I think we have an update in January, February, Matt. I think
Yes, in
it,
terms of the retail. update.
Retail and Killam coming together kind of thing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Karen?
I just wanted to also mention as well, so we're now at Green Communities.
Yep.
And they have a list of the competitive awards every year, and I love that they put that out there, because I know all of the inventory, what's aging.
Mhm.
Use the Pleasant Street Center gas systems for an example.
Yep.
But all of those schools and buildings. And since the new ones always save energy, they're always on there, so I don't know if you've had a chance to look there, but now we can ask for up to $250,000 a year back to fund energy efficiencies, which is frequently like, it's time to upgrade it. But it also mentions building management systems, which we already have, but you'd be surprised how
Yep.
That's a great pool of money, I guess is the point.
It is, and I think part of the problem is that, and Andrew and I have had this discussion, is through our ESCO contract, phase 1, phase 2, we grabbed all the low-hanging fruit in phase 1, and then phase 2, we took it a step further.
Mhm.
So I'm sure there's something out there for a project, we just have to find the right one, right? I mean,
Right.
because we did like transformers, we did LED conversions, the list goes on, but there's something there, we just have to identify it, is really what it is.
I mean, even the library, so that was like, well, that work was done 15 years ago, so it's like, I mean, whatever, it's ongoing.
Yeah,
And so
actually, the
this
library's,
grant
the
every-
library's only 10 years old.
Okay,
It's 10
sorry.
years old.
Sorry,
Yeah.
but the point is, so this grant is now every year, but as you're going through these buildings and things come up.
Yeah,
I think
I'll
you're gonna be
continue
like
to work
looking
with
at this
Andrew
list a
on it,
lot.
so we'll definitely continue to work hard at that.
Karen, do you have anything? No? Good. Joe, thank you for the negative 1%. As we know, next year it won't be negative 1%, but we will enjoy it while we have it. I guess my only random question is, so you have 18 pest control service locations. How does that equate with the Board of Health? Like, it's not rodent mitigation being used, or what's the deal with this?
So the schools have something called an IPM, it's Integrated Pest Management Program through the state of Massachusetts. I'm gonna try to answer this question, which I think you're asking me. And the licensed applicator, the person that puts does the pest control in our building, it's tied to, his license is tied to a building. So to try to do it on a town-wide scale is very difficult. We need to have, because it's for schools more than anything. At putting the application down, whatever it is, whatever they use, it has to be approved by the state for each school. So we had talked about that earlier, but it's kind of a tough thing to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jane.
I apologize in advance for how many slides I have for you. We'll try to get them done relative with some alacrity this evening. So good evening, I'm Jane Wellman, for those at home. I'm the Assistant Town Manager, and I've been with the town for nearly 10 years. I'm joined tonight by a lot of my staff members, and I'm grateful for them to be here. We have Sean Donahue, we have Jenna Wood, Katie Gabriella, Josh Stallone, and Andrew McNichols over right, and Laura Jem is also in one of these departments. I just turned the mic on, sorry about that. So it's my pleasure to be here tonight to present the budgets for administrative and public services. And while these appear as two separate departments in the budget, they are one department under my leadership. This change was made under Fidel, and Matt at that time led the unified department. Next slide, please, Natty. So each department is comprised of several divisions, and these divisions are kind of separate and distinct, which is why I present each division budget separately, and we don't roll it all into one. The administrative services budget includes human resources, operations, the town clerk and elections, and the town manager's office. This budget also includes copier leases, postage, legal costs, and property casualty insurance. The public services budget includes community development, which houses planning, economic development, conservation, and the building divisions. Community services includes elder and human services, recreation, and veteran services. So, interesting side note, adding up the years of service that just the divisions have, the division heads have, we have more than 67 years of experience with the town of Reading across our leadership team, and they're all here tonight. Next slide, please. We're going to begin with the administrative services FY27 budget. Next slide, please. Human resources. So our personnel and human resources include Sean Donahue, who's been here 10 years as the director, and Annabella Batista is the assistant director. Avantika Mehta is the benefits specialist, but her salary is carried in the operations budget. HR handles all hiring, personnel management, training, workers' compensation claims, and benefits administration to all town departments, the school department, the light department, and our retirees. Noteworthy items within this budget, like others, it's been level funded for expenses for the last 5 years. Most of the divisions have been level funded or come down in the last few years. This team also calculated this year all the FY27 salary projections for all the departments. They organized a wellness day for department heads, assistant department heads. They've won over $50,000 in Maya grants this year, more than their annual expense budget, and a big chunk of those grant funds are going to our first responders. That includes health screenings, and they brought back open enrollment for life insurance for the first time in a decade, which is a wonderful benefit to our employees.
Can you comment on that a little bit?
Yes, sure.
So
Which part?
new employees for 10 years have not been able to get life insurance, or what does that mean?
Sean, do you
No, the life insurance that we have in place hasn't really been changed in a while. So employees can join it as a new hire or at any time. It's a lot harder if you don't do it as a new hire. So we had a plan upgrade, which also allowed people to enter the plan at the same time. I don't know if I'm supposed to be at the microphone, I'm sorry. But no, they've been able to enroll. It's a plan update, and people who weren't in it before were able to join.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Sean. A goal for the future is for HR to be able to secure funding for applicant tracking software. This has been one of their goals for a while. They want to explore new benefit opportunities and look for gaps and update policies. Next slide, please. With an expense budget of $39,000 and a salary budget of $236,100, the HR budget represents a 3.15% increase over FY26. Next slide, please. Town clerk. So our town clerk's office is comprised of Laura Jem, our clerk, who's been with the town over 16 years, Ann Cruikshank and Daniela Calvacanti, our administrative assistants. The assistant town clerk position recently opened, and we're currently interviewing candidates for that role. Among the many duties carried out by the clerk's office, perhaps the one that consumes the clerk's time the most are public records requests, requiring multiple days per week of her time. FY26 highlights that we're projecting include managing a special election for the recount and the Killam School project, and working to make all vital records electronic going back to the 1600s. Looking ahead, the town clerk's office proposes And I propose that we include funding for 3 elections annually rather than switching back and forth from 1 to 3 and artificially inflating and deflating the budget. We have traditionally carried whatever number of elections we have. In recent years, we've had more special elections that have not been budgeted for, but we've ended up paying for anyway because they were necessary. And so we're recommending, and you'll see the elections increase for next year is what's driving the increase in this budget, and I tried to indicate that in the slide. But if we keep it at 3, and this is for the board to think about, this is just the level 1 budget, so we have more time to talk about this as a community, but we're looking at a $59,000 increase just to run the extra elections. And in years where we wouldn't be running those extra elections, we would use those funds, or we could use those funds for equipment maintenance, like our poll pads and our ballot equipment, or it would transfer out to free cash if it's not spent. But it would reduce this kind of up and down that we see every single year. So that is food for thought. Next slide, please. No, I just covered all of this. I skipped a slide. You can go ahead one more slide, please. There we go. So here you can see the town clerk's expense budget is just $5,000 with a 0% increase, and the salaries is $194,700 for a total of 3.5% increase. However, the elections budget shows the real growth when we go from 1 to 3 elections. We go through this back and forth annually, which is why we want to utilize this more conservative budgeting approach by always planning for 3 elections, which is something, talking with Laura, that many towns do to avoid this back and forth, and she can answer questions if you'd like to have them as we get over this presentation. So with the elections, we see a 61.83% increase over last year. Last year was an 11% decrease over the previous year. So as I said, that represents a $59,000 increase, but it just really inflates those percentage numbers. It just appears here and also in the operations budget, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, I also want to state that it's very important to note the state does reimburse certain costs related to vote by mail and in-person early voting expenses, as well as some equipment maintenance related expenses, and those are submitted by the town clerk after the election. We hold $3,900 in the budget because that's the only amount that we're guaranteed. Previous years, we've been reimbursed between $13,000 and $23,000. So a portion of those, and that the $23,000 is in those 3 election years, we receive those higher numbers. So this $59,000 increase will be mitigated, but by less than 50% of that increase. Okay, next slide, please. Our operations division, comprised of Katie Gabriello as the director and Josh Stallone, the executive assistant, manages centralized procurement for the town and school departments, as well as risk management, communications, and constituent services. The budget also carries administrative staff from across the department, copier leases, postage, and equipment maintenance. Highlights from last year include executing more than 30 procurements across town departments, all town departments, more than 20 insurance claims for things like sewer and water issues, road defects, property damage, vehicle collisions. And the division also put out 293 social media posts and saw a 63% increase in new followers over last year. Next slide, please. People engaged strongly through social media with the town, clicking 6,499 links and posts last year, driving traffic to our website and representing a 129% increase over 2024. A good portion of this interaction came from our project posts, like Killam and the Recal, particularly the tax calculator, which has gotten traction all over the state. We stole it from Nantucket, and other people have stolen it from us, so that's gotten a lot of traction. The trash and recycling cart rollout and other posts like these. Next slide, please. Operations works closely with the DPW on the entire cart rollout operation. This year is in a year-long process developing and issuing the RFP for our hauling contract. Katie and Josh have been critical working with the Killam School and the Recal projects on communications, engagement, and project support through all phases. And operations is looking for a level services budget again this year. Looking ahead, we are anticipating a 2.5% to 3.5% increase in our Maya property and casualty insurance premiums for FY27, which is lower than it's been in previous years. And again, we're at level 1, so we will know more as they come in. And then the postage line has increased $18,000 to cover the mailing of election ballots. So that's where the other part of our election increase is seen. Next slide, please. So the FY27 budget impact is showing an 11.14% for the operations division increase over last year for expenses. And that's driven by the ballots. And then salaries for operations are only a 1.62% increase due to some attrition and new hiring. Overall, it's a 3.6% increase for the division. Next slide, please. The town manager division includes the manager's salaries, his reserve funds, the cultural council support, the select board budget, finance committee audit and training, and the legal budget. Salaries for our fantastic executive assistants, Jackie Laverty and Maddie Baptiste, are held within the operations budget that we just went over. Boards supported by the staff division include the select board, finance committee, the CPA study committee, the bylaw committee, and VASC. By way of interest, there are also 1,170 subscribers to the Town Manager Minute, which is issued from this office. Next slide, please. The expenses budget remains stable this year. We may see a slight increase in FY28 for copier leases, but right now we deem that budget to be stable. We are also planning a 1.55% increase overall for the division, which is just a placeholder value for the manager's salary. Once that contract is sorted out and in a further level in the budget, it will become fixed here. Next slide, please. You may remember that we carry property and casualty insurance premiums and deductibles for claims in the accommodated cost portion of the budget, but they live in administrative services. We are holding a 2.66% increase for the insurance premium here, and we're level funding the deductible line for an overall increase of 2.5%. We work really, really hard with the DPW and facilities and police and fire and our library and pretty much all of our departments and our light board to keep our loss runs low with a safety committee. And so we have really good loss runs right now with all the preventive maintenance that the facilities department does, all the trainings that all the departments do for employee safety, and all the other things we do. We have really good loss runs. So we are very hopeful, and we are pushing our insurer to sharpen their pencils and come back with a very favorable renewal. Yes, that's true. Next slide, please. So for administrative services, the total increase all in is a 3.9% increase. However, if we were to back out that election expense, we would see an increase of 1.98%. And so I call that out just because of this fluctuating nature, just to show that it's really just these extra elections that we must cost. And we must cover, and then some of those costs will be reimbursed by the state. Next slide, please. I'm going to move to public services, encompassing community services and community development. Next slide, please. Community services led by Jenna Wood, the director, who has been with the town for 13 years. She is supported by Sue Simiola, the executive assistant. Recreation is led by Jim Sullivan, the administrator, with Ed Shambo, and they support the recreation committee. Our veteran services officer is Will Valier. And the largest division is our elder and human services division that was led by Chris Kovalevsky. He has only recently accepted a new position with the city of Cambridge and will be finishing out his work here on the 16th. He has done a wonderful job, and we wish him well in his new role. Other members of our team include Linda Antonoro, Anna Assini, Carrie Valley, Joe Beninati, Jenna Dubois, and our public health nurse, funded through the health department, Liv Bartolome. This division has been hard at work supporting the Council on Aging and the Recount Project. Next slide, please. Highlights from 2025 include passage of the Reading Center for Active Living project, the construction of the Birch Meadow Phase 2 playground and courts, the passage of the HERO Act recently at subsequent town meeting, and the collaborative development of an operational plan that will guide us as we move all three divisions under one roof beginning in FY28. Next slide, please. Thank you. The administration portion of the community services budget is projected for a 2.91% increase. It's mainly driven by salaries. We're seeking a small reduction in expenses, which is stormwater. So it's de minimis. Next slide, please. Community services overall saw a reduction in veteran services line, which is held under accommodated costs, and a small increase in salaries, which results in a 1.39% decrease overall. Two items to note. First, the Executive Office of Elder Affairs is planning an increase in reimbursement formula to $15 to $16. $16 per resident over 60 years old. And so we are budgeting $110,000 from that EOEA grant to offset salary costs. What's important to know is that many communities use these funds for programming, but in Reading, we use them to offset salaries. It supports about 1/3 of that salary line, and so we cannot afford to move this item to offset expenses. That's Elder and Human Services, so 1/3 of our Elder and Human Services salaries. Second, we don't carry expenses for the recreation budget as it is funded via the Recreation Revolving Fund. Every year, the unspent funds transfer to free cash. In FY25, Recreation Revolving contributed $108,856 to free cash. Previous years have been as high as $198,000 and as low as $89,900. Next slide, please. Finally, we are at the Community Development Division. Andrew McNichol is our Community Development Director, and he's been here 8 years. Chuck Tyrone is the Conservation Administrator. Kevin McCarthy is our Economic Development Senior Planner. Olivia Knightley is our Housing Senior Planner, and Amanda Beatrice is our Administrative Specialist. In Building and Permitting, we have Steve Frederickson serving as our Interim Building Commissioner. Kim Saunders is our Permits Coordinator. Karen Johnson is our Administrative Assistant, and we have 5 part-time inspectors in this department, so between building, electrical, plumbing. Okay, next slide, please. So our professional staff works on development and review, long-term visioning and planning, grants management, and supports several boards and committees, including Community Planning and Development Commissions, the ZBA, Conservation Commission, Historic District Commissions, the Trails Committee, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee, and Climate Advisory. The community development manages a number of grants, as I mentioned. Eastern Gateway was a $100,000 grant, and it supported engagement and conceptual designs that we've been talking about in the community. Walker's Brook Drive design is a $500,000 grant that's recently relaunched and is aiming toward the TIP process and at least 25% design, which you need to have that 25% design before you can put it on the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan. Our MVP 2.0 grant was $95,000, and that is funding social resilience engagement support, and it's trending toward a project in engineering review of the Main and Washington Street intersection. And we have a streetscape grant for $2.6 million, which is going toward the Haven and High Street project, and that bid will be launching, I think, in January? Yep, January. 3 weeks, okay. Next slide, please. So for FY27, we're requesting an overall 1.55% increase in the community development budget with a 0% increase for our expenses budget. It's been level funded for at least the last 3 years, and a 5.78% increase in salaries, which reflects more hours in our building department from our commissioner position and our inspectors as we're going into 2 major building projects. Next slide, please. So the total for public services budget is $1.882 million, with both divisions together, which represents a 1.96% increase. So public services altogether is 1.96. The next slide, please. So finally, with both halves of the department, while they are held separately in our budgeting system, if we were to put them both together, the FY27 request is for $4.9 million. And that represents 3.2% increase. If we were to back out the election costs, the total would instead be 1.97% increase. So that was as fast as I could go. I mean, I have a little dry mouth happening right now, so that's exciting. So questions, please.
Carlo, did you have anything online?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jane. So I guess the one thing that stuck out the most, aside from community service salaries, was all these departments had the highest percentage of salary increases to date of all the presentations. And I know you explained some of them, but I guess the one that stuck out the most was town manager at 4.53. I mean, I don't think COLA is that high. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not wrong. Like I said, it's a placeholder based on the previous budgeted year. So we do the level one budgets based on the previous level one funding. And so that's where that comes from. It's up to the select board to determine what that number is, and then we'll put that in at level 2 or level 3.
Okay.
So it's just a placeholder. It's not a suggestion. We're not,
No, I know that. No, I know this is, I get it. This is, I understand that, but I'm just wondering why a high number like that was put in, that's all. And I guess you mentioned on, I think it was the community planning page department on the salary increase there was due to some of the projects. Was that overtime or what was the increase for?
the community.
Community planning, I think.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome to come up, Sean, that's fine.
You got it.
Thank you. Right, so that's a 5.78% increase. We increased the hours for Glenn Redmond. And we increased the hours for our commissioner from 37.5 to 40 hours to be able to keep up with the level of work that department already has anyway, let alone going into these 2 huge building projects, which Recal is going to bid next week. And we'll get those bids in January. And so that's at 100% design. We need our commissioners and, looking at all of our designs and so forth, and then as we go through construction. So that's where that's coming from. And again, that is our level 1 budget.
So the sound is not that great. Did I hear the increases were due to inspectors? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, Glenn Redmond, and because we have 5 part-time inspectors. So we increased his hours, 20 to 21 hours from, I think, 20.
From 19.
From 19, thank you.
So 2 hours per week equates to this high of an increase? I'm kind of confused.
Well, if you look at the overall increase for the division, it's 1.55%. So
No, I know that. That's a much prettier number, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to, you know what I'm getting at. I'm kind of trying to plan for the future, and I know Glenn's been here a long time, and I know we have an interim building inspector.
That's correct.
Or the director, but I guess,
Commissioner, yep.
Isn't Glenn one of the highest paid?
That's correct.
What?
That's correct.
So why did he get the extra hours and not someone else?
Because he is the most experienced, and he has the availability to do this work. So he has been acting after our building commissioner left, when Brett left, we increased Glenn's hours to cover a lot of to serve as the interim commissioner. And then he backed down some of his commissioner work when we brought the interim commissioner in. And he fills in for that work. So it's a lot we have going on right now.
All right, I just want to be mindful, given I'm given the same amount of questions to most of the departments on salaries and budgets and operations, and given what's ahead of us. So I guess.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And I know there's a lot of work that goes into this from everyone, and I'm not trying to disparage anyone by any means, but I just, for some reason, this one sticks out the most so far. I know we have a couple of presentations left, so I'll leave it there, and then other board members can ask specific questions. Thanks.
Thank you. No, it's a really good point. I should also mention that all of our inspectors are retired to retirement age. And a lot of them work part-time because they're trying to maintain some retirement. They also come out at 3 o'clock in the morning when a car drives into a building or when there's a building that needs an inspection because there's been a fire or something like that. So this is some of the work that they do. You didn't ask me about overtime. And so I'm mindful of that. And I can say that we may be able to reduce some of our public services overtime because we don't tend to spend to the level that we funded at. So that's something that we'll look to bring down in level 2.
All right, thanks. Yeah, because I know you said when I was asking specifically about, the increase, it wasn't overtime due to some of the projects, it was just other things. So that's why I didn't follow up with the overtime question, but I'm glad you brought it up, and everyone's got to, keep this in mind. I know, there's a reason people work in state, city, and federal government for some unadvertised perks, but we got to try to keep overtime at a minimum.
I appreciate that.
Board members, Karen Rosegill.
Thank you for your presentation. Thank you. Back to the 5.78 increase, is that permanent for once all the projects are done and we're done doing all the extra legwork? Would it be able to come down after the projects are done? Or is this going to be dependent on whether we still have 5 part-time people?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot of it. So because we have 5 part-time inspectors and 1 full-time commissioner, that's where we are right now. When we hire a full-time building commissioner, soon we hope, we may be in a position to rework how that department goes over time. We haven't been notified by any of our inspectors that they want to fully retire, but we anticipate that may happen. And so it is very hard to fill these positions. They require a tremendous amount of expertise and knowledge and experience in this role to make sure that our buildings are safe in our community and all the things that we have are safe. And it's a highly detailed role. So they're very hard to fill. And so, but yeah, I don't know that it's permanent, but right now this is what we believe is the right number.
Okay. And then quickly to go back to the election increases. Well, now I can't remember my question. Well, I'm hoping one of you remembers what my question was.
Three elections, reimbursements.
Oh, 3, right. So 3 elections. The money will go back into free cash or wherever it will go if we don't happen to use it.
That's correct. If we were to continue to fund elections annually at 3 elections, which we would recommend whether we are in this budget situation or not. But if the community is not comfortable with that, we certainly don't have to do that. But yeah, if there was extra and we didn't use it for repairing election equipment, then it would go to free cash.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa.
Thank you, Jane. Appreciate it. I'm going to piggyback on this question first for the building department. So when I saw that there were 9 staff members in the packet, I kind of was shocked by that. I think that seemed like a lot to me, so I started looking at other towns. So we have 5 part-time inspectors, or some of them plumbing inspectors, electrical inspectors, so they're not all just building inspectors.
Correct. We have 2 part-time building inspectors and the commissioner. And the others are plumbing and gas, and sorry, that's the same. And electrical. Andrew?
1 electrical, 1 plumbing, gas, 3 building.
There you go. There you go. 3 building part-time.
3 building part-time, 1 building full-time, 1 plumbing inspector, 1 electrical inspector. Right? I get that. Okay. So I understand that they're not easy positions to hire for, but wouldn't it make more sense if we really need that many hours to have 2 full-time building inspectors versus a bunch of part-time people?
Not necessarily, but I'm going to invite Andrew to come up and talk about, this is a legacy staffing that we had for a while, began under Jean Bellios, and she kind of assembled a dream team of inspectors. So they're all very capable.
And I'm not saying they're not experienced. I'm just worried that we have a very large building department with a large salary that comes along with that.
Would you like to speak to some of that?
Yeah, right now, the way it's divvied up with the 3 part-time inspectors is different days so that there's minimal overlap on any given day, but that there's coverage every day. And that's a Monday through Friday service for inspections that we have because there is contractors working on Fridays and even over the weekend, but we'll wait for those on Monday. But right now, that's worked very well for us. I do think in the future, long-term wise, as if and when they do choose to transition out, that if it makes sense to look at a full-time building commissioner, 1 full-time inspector, and part-time, or some version of that, I think that will make sense, and that's what we're preparing for in the long term. But right now, it's working to meet our needs of the amount of permits and inspections that we do have.
Okay. Now I can go back to the other questions I had. So what, for HR, you mentioned that there were some benefit opportunities that you guys wanted to look into in the future. I'm just curious of what those may be, or what it is that you're looking for.
Oh, yeah, that's a you, Sean. That's a you.
Never been asked a question before.
I'm
Usually
sorry.
45
That's
seconds
true.
and done. So there's just, as Karen was asking earlier about the life insurance, that gave us an opportunity to update some of our benefits that have been in place for over a decade. So as we went through that process, we started to think about maybe short-term, long-term disability type plans that could be out there. And while we're doing this, we're very mindful of, how that would impact the town's budget, because there are some of those plans that, could be a shared cost, some of them that would just be the employee.
Yep.
So those are some of the things that we started to explore. And there's certainly others that could come up, but that was just what
Yep.
that meant.
Great, I was just
Specifically.
curious of what those were.
Yep.
And then it makes sense to me to keep the budget for the election at 3 per year. I mean, the switching back and forth is kind of a false sense of reduction when we get it, so. The one question I had about the elections with the mail-in ballots and the big increase in postage, is that some of the reimbursed money we get?
Yes.
Okay, does it usually come out to be even? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
So the state reimburses equal to what we spend in mailing out ballots.
Okay, perfect, great. And then under community services, just like I asked about the recal operational costs, do we have any idea or programming costs of what we're looking at for recal?
Well,
Or will we get that update soon?
yes, there we go. I'll invite Jenna to come up and give you a little highlight on what we've been doing with the operations plan and programming. And you can kind of explain the programming model we utilize now, which we'll go with.
Sure. So right now we've been giving monthly updates to Recreation Committee and the Council on Aging. And we've gotten, so far our first presentation was just an introduction. And then our second presentation was some draft policies. So they included a membership packet, they included the fitness room packet and the room rental packet, which kind of outlines some financial data in that, which will be really helpful for everyone to see here as well in the future. The second thing that we're going to be going over in the next meeting will be the programming space policy. So that will go over how we want to run the building operationally as a team. And we'll be getting feedback from the Recreation and the Council on Aging in a joint meeting. Right now, all of our programs at the Senior Center have been predominantly funded by ARPA funds. So no costs right now at the Pleasant Street Center currently. However, we're exploring a new platform to join our teams. And this platform will be allowed to take payments for everyone, for all of community services, veterans, recreation, elder and human services. So that will be rolling out in March. And then we hope to start charging minimal costs to our participants like we did prior to ARPA to offset a lot of our costs moving into recal. And obviously we can't run these programs for free anymore.
Yeah.
And then the timeline too for the operational piece, we're going to be presenting that. We were going to do it in January, but we pushed the timeline to February. So all of our teams can meet because operationally, as you know, Joe has to be involved. Several other departments need to be involved in the conversation. So we do have a preliminary
operational plan with the finances. Back of the napkin from Joe. We do have some information from a consultant that we received, and we do have information internally from the Community Services Department. So it's just getting together and finalizing those numbers as best we can to give you guys more of a comprehensive look of what the building's gonna bring forward. But we're pretty confident. We have great ideas. We have a conservative approach. The whole team seems to be very supportive of this approach. So we look forward to bringing it to you guys in February.
Okay, great. And I don't know if we could I guess I could look at their packets of, just curious of what it's looking like right now.
Yeah.
I'm really concerned that it's gonna really put the town over the edge. So I think that the select board should kind of be on top of that.
Sure.
Just so we're aware of what's going on and what's coming in front of us instead of February, us all being really blown out of the water of what that number might be. I hear you. I think, thank you so much. And then, do I have any?
Laura had some.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify something on your question. So the question was, does the state reimburse for vote by mail ballots? So what I wanted to clarify is it depends on how it's requested. If a person requests a vote by mail ballot, the state reimburses the cost of postage. If a person requests an absentee ballot, which is something different, they do not reimburse that cost.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure you understood that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and I feel like forever it's been doing absentee. It's just the vote by mail that's new to communities, correct? Or newer, I should say.
Correct, and that's the majority that's requested. Very few request absentee anymore.
Great, okay, awesome, thank you. Just a quick question, Jane, you said operations plan development under one roof. Is that what you were talking about? Like they're all gonna get on a system, well, physically under one roof and then that system?
I was actually talking literally about the
physically,
same,
okay,
actually for one of, but yeah, they will be using one payment system, so rather than paying for two vendors, we'll do one to accept payments and go to move to a cashless option eventually over time, being respectful of our clients.
Awesome. All right, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you for the questions.
Karen?
Thank you. Thanks very much for the presentation. I saw a couple things that I didn't see up there, like the pickleball project, which is happening this year, yes?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's a big thing you'll be working on. That's not an insignificant project.
That's a huge project.
That's a huge project. You probably want to add that to that slide.
Well, it's it's in the capital budget, so I should add it to the
So you're
slide.
gonna have to
But
manage
it's the
it.
capital, yes, no,
At the same time
yes,
that
ma'am.
Recal and Killam.
Yes, ma'am, I am
Alright.
doing a lot
Might
of
as
work
well
on
like
this project.
remind everyone, yeah, because
Pickleball, yep.
And then Town Forest Committee is probably supported by your organization as well. So Trails or Conservation?
Trails, yes, forest is DPW.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right.
It's
There's all
confusing,
this
I'll give you that.
collaboration going on and
Absolutely.
mutual support, so, yep, but that makes
100%.
sense. I know DPW did a lot for them. And then I think we should clarify the select board budget. It's not a budget that we have any say for. It's an amalgamation, it's a bunch of former individual committee budgets that were dumped into a line item.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
now dumped on our desk, and I'm not happy with it, and I say this every year. It's not a good thing for us to be spending our time doing. But certainly before it gets to the finance committee, we should clarify that. It's not, I would love if we had a budget to do things for the benefit of the community, but we don't. That's a small budget where we have the various committees come and like fight for it, and like, it's just not a good way of doing business, but, all right, we should just make sure people know that that's what that is.
Yes.
It's not our beer and pizza budget.
No, there isn't one of those for you. Sorry. Or anybody, right, good point. None of us get that.
Right, okay. Oh, wait, you guys have one, okay.
None of that.
And then to questions about managing the building inspectors, and yeah, Glenn has a tremendous amount of experience, and but I was just wondering, in terms of what part-time inspectors cost us, are they at this point hourly employees, or are they at a part-time level where we're still funding benefits for them? Does it depend on the inspector?
I think I'll have to defer to Sean on that one, but I think we have benefits for not all of them, but some of them.
Okay.
So it just depends. So there's different thresholds for different benefits. So if someone's 20 hours a week, they qualify for some benefits. If they are 32.5 or more, I believe that's the number, they would qualify for the pension. All of the part-time inspectors are below the 32 and a half.
Okay.
So it's only if somebody were to elect benefits, and then the only other thing they would get is just prorated PTO that comes with it, like vacation or sick time.
Okay.
Does that help?
Are they allowed to, I mean, this is for the question for the paras working in the school departments, because most of them are part-time, and so I don't know if their salaries cover health insurance, but I didn't know if.
So if their salaries cover health insurance, do you mean like if they hit that threshold?
If
for
they
health
even
insurance?
make enough money to
So
pay for
somebody
health
needs
insurance.
to get 20 hours a week for health insurance.
Okay,
And then there's the split between the town and the employee.
yes,
Up to
so
29.
some of these part-time health inspectors could make that threshold?
Some of them work 20 hours a week, yes.
Okay. It's just part of the, what is it gonna cost us? And if they're not electing it, that's another thing. Okay. All right, that's what I just kind of wanted to understand how that was being managed. And then, I know the Council of Aging is very concerned about making up for the loss of ARPA funding going forward, and I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this could be an opportunity to, ask about, it might be a little early where we're just building the project, but again, the topic of sponsorships. But maybe if we want to reach out to the community members and have them start sponsoring programs, that could happen in the current Pleasant Street Center and be carried forward into the new one
100%.
as a way to help make up, this concern about those wonderful funds, which have like done so much.
That's a great point. We also resurrected the volunteer program, so we have more, I think 70 volunteers.
I understand the volunteer program for the
Yeah.
seniors are huge.
It's
That's
huge.
amazing.
And, Janet Dubois created that out of thin air with support from Chris and the rest of the staff, brought that forward to you. And that has been really just fantastic. And so some other towns, as they build that program up, some of those volunteers actually do some of the programming. So we see some of that as well. So it's
Okay,
another way that we
that's a
can bring
good-
more
okay.
programming in. And the volunteers are doing something they love.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then one more thing, just it's nice when the library director can talk about residents served and transactions in the library. And I didn't know if you had access to data showing that, out of veteran services and rec and elder services, how many community members you're serving in your department. I think that's, as we're all struggling with budgets and we're gonna be struggling with increases in our tax bills, it's a good reminder. This is the return on investment, because I think, again, and DPW and facilities and we could all do it, reminding we're paying for services and here's how many people are getting touched by these services. I don't know if you have access to data to be able to do that.
We have it, and Jenna's gonna give it to you. But no, that is a great point, and I appreciate that. That's a great question. You played right into my hands, and Jenna will
Okay, great.
give you some of that information, but we also will include that in our annual report.
Okay.
Yep, so total interactions at the Pleasant Street Center from July 1st of 2024 till June 30th of 2025. There was 36,459 interactions. There was over 20,000 program and event registrations, over 4,200 rides, over 401 large bus trip reservations. We have some great highlights about Liv, our public health nurse who came on board. She has offered 27 blood pressure screening clinics, which is over 160 plus clients that were served. Flu clinics and homebound flu shots, over 50 of those, 60 plus clients served there. She also created several free programs at the center. Our volunteer coordinator, placement of over 55 volunteers, brought back Volunteer Appreciation Day. And then let's skip over rec. So They offer 148 unique program offerings in the year. They have 7,486 total program registrations. Out of those, 6,846 are residents, 640 are non-resident. And I have all of the age breakdowns for the ages. So 4,261 are ages 0 to 10, 1,099 ages 11 to 20, 258 ages 21 to 40, 485 ages 41 to 60, and 228 ages 61 plus. And Will continues to serve, I think, over 300 veterans in a year. So those are some.
Those are great numbers. I'd love, it would be great if you could put those in some visual slides for the hard of hearing and for visual learners. Because it is helpful when Amy puts it up there and she's telling us.
No, Amy knocked it out of the park. She really did. I'm gonna steal. I'm totally gonna steal
I
slides.
won't remember
Stealing
them
them right now.
but if I'm watching it, no, I'm just talking about me. When I see them on a slide, or
No,
maybe you
it's-
choose
you're
a pie
so-
chart or however you present it, at the same time you're telling me those numbers, they stick in my head.
Okay.
And I have a better magnitude versus.
I love that.
That was great data. I'm not trying to diss you or anything. I was just like, oh, I've already forgotten the last one she told me.
It's all right. We'll get it on the slide for sure. No, thank you very
I'm
much
glad
for
you
that
have it.
feedback.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's a
thank
lot
you very
of
much.
people. It's a lot of interactions.
It's a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're doing a lot. I'm really privileged to work with such a great team, and we cover a lot of territory in town. And so it's quite something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris?
Thanks, Jane. So I thought that, this is twofold. I thought that Glenn retired, got replaced already, but now is back. And the same thing with the assistant town clerk. I thought we hired someone, they got promoted, I think, and then went out again, and now we're going out again, like, so.
No.
Can we just get some clarification on?
So
those two?
I think Glenn's retired 3 times.
Yeah.
Three times?
We love Glenn. And yeah, so he continues to serve. I don't know how much longer he'll be able to continue serving. I think he just got back from hunting and had a great hunting time. So we are grateful for Glenn's expertise in this town, and we are hopeful that he will continue to stay on board as we onboard a new building commissioner in the future and help us get that person trained on sort of the way that we do things in Reading.
So we didn't hire somebody already for his position, or am I making this up? I thought this happened.
Glenn is one of the part-time inspectors.
Okay.
We have an interim building commissioner that has
So
been serving.
Glenn was the commissioner back in
Correct.
however long ago. Then it went to Mark Dupel, then Brett. Now we're trying to fill commissioner again, but Glenn's been inspector for a long time.
Okay, so it's just a different title? Is that why I'm confusing this?
Yeah, and he's part-time. And then and I don't want to speak for Laura, neither Laura nor Sean report to me directly. They report to the town manager, but their budgets are within my budget. So the assistant town clerk has been with us for quite a while, and she has recently moved out of state with her family. And so the position has been open. There are 2 administrative assistants that are in the department right now. One's a more recent hire. And I would leave it to Laura to speak about her staff any further if that doesn't answer your question.
No, I think I'm good with that. And then, where were we? Oh, yes, so I got somewhat clarification from Sharon on the town manager budget, because it's obviously the only thing that, out of all these presentations, that the select board can actually control. Because, you know, we see all these increases or decreases with Joe Huggins, thank you.
I had some decreases.
Did you?
Yeah.
Maybe if you had some better slides.
You gotta work on better
Turn back money
slides.
to us. I didn't hear that from Joe. Joe's like, I'll find a way to use it, but like, we welcome turnbacks too.
I think he's turned back some money, just a little.
$108,000.
So yeah, that's the only one that we obviously can control. So I don't want to, speak ill or whatever, but I think that in a time when Stonham's lower override just passed, but in a time when we are going to have to do our own override, just seeing anything higher than 2.5% on an increase on something that we control doesn't really sit well with me. And I know you mentioned that it's, it's only the level 1 scenario, but still, it's the only thing that we have control over, and I just don't think it's a good look at all.
No, and that's fair, and I appreciate that. And I just want to make a note to all of you that Matt had no input into that number whatsoever. I run the town manager's budget, so, and actually really Jackie kind of runs it. But no, he had no input on that, and I did not ask the board for any guidance on that number either. So I will take ownership of that, and we can, bring that down with level 2, level 3, whatever the board's appetite. I'm happy to revise it down to 2.5.
Yeah, no, I don't have a number either. I just know that just seeing it with in terms of the entire approach to everything, it's just, I don't know. That's my take.
Understood. Thank you very much.
And that's it, unless Carlo had any other follow-ups.
No, I'm good, thank you.
I thank the board for your informative questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Sharon is up. Finance is next, and then shared costs. Should be here. Okay.
So this is the finance org chart. Can you hear me?
No, I didn't think your microphone was on, but
It is on.
Yeah.
I just speak very softly, so let's get it closer. Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Okay, so the finance department has 3 divisions: the accounting department, the assessing department, and the general finance, which is treasury and collections. So they're like 2 different divisions within one. Sorry, it's here at my face. And then you can see all the positions that fall under it and all the boards and committees that we support. We also have a regional assessor. Victor is an employee of Wakefield, and we have a regional agreement with them. These are our FTEs for our department. General finance has 6.43 FTEs, accounting 4, and assessing 2.5, and those remain unchanged from prior year. These are some of the key responsibilities in the general finance area, which is the collections and treasury area. So we do payroll for about 1,200 employees bi-weekly. We do cash management and reconciliation for the town, RMLD, and all of that. We do the whole town, and RMLD is almost as big as the town. Unbelievable how much it is to reconcile cash for us because we have that much going on. State and federal reporting, we do that for the town and also RMLD and retirement because we do pay them through our payroll as well, the 2 employees from the retirement. We do debt issuance, and then we do quarterly property tax billing, quarterly utility billing. We manage tax title, and we process payments, about 123,000 payments a year. In assessing, the key functions that we handle there are valuation of real and personal property, field review, data collection, and data entry of property information, administration of statutory and local property tax exemptions. We also issue about 23,800 motor vehicle excise tax bills. We do all the abatements in the assessing, so that would include motor vehicle and property tax abatements. We do maintenance of the property tax records, and then tax classification presentation to you all every year is done by Victor. That's in the assessing area. And then we advertise and administer the senior tax relief program, which we never added any staff to do. These are the key accounting functions, and we pay about 26,000 bills a year, and that would include the bills for the town, RMLD, school, the whole organization. And we do monthly budget reporting to all the department heads so they can be on top of their budgets and see where they stand on a monthly basis. We do all the budget oversight and support, so they'll frequently get a message from me saying, what's going on here, if something doesn't look right, especially with grants, if something doesn't look right with grants, but also with their general fund budget. We also do the support and security settings for munis so that people don't have access to things that they're not supposed to see, only the things that they're assigned for. Also, we do the tax recap, which is the setting of the tax rate. I work closely with Victor in doing that. We do the free cash certification. We do the Schedule A reporting for DOR, financial analysis and reporting, and also the compilation of anything needed for the audit. And then within the last few years, I've taken over the compilation of the annual budget and all the charts that go into the book, the warrant book. A lot of stuff was done by the prior town manager prior to Fidel, and I took over all of that, capital planning, debt planning, all of that. And I prepare all the budget presentations for FinCom and town meeting. One of the things that happened not last week, the week before, we did get our AAA bond rating reaffirmed by S&P, and they made a nice compliment for us that we got through our Hilltop Securities, which is our bonding agent, saying that our presentation of our budget, our forecasting, our capital plan, our debt was some of the best that they've ever seen. And they asked us if they would mind if we share the information of how what we put together so that they could use an example for others. And so I thought that was really nice to hear. And I thought I'd share it with you guys because it's nice to know that they think we do a good and thorough job. So this is our budget for finance, overall up 2.7%. Accounting 3.17, assessing 2.54, and general finance 2.45. The majority of the increases in the department are for salaries, and we are non-union staff, so all of the employees will get a step in a COLA, a 1.25% COLA. So in accounting, wages are going up 3.56, assessing 3.28, and general finance 3.14 for a total of 3.3. Our expenses, I did everything I could in my power to pull down expenses as much as I could to help the effort of keeping this budget at 2.75, which is a pretty modest budget for most municipalities. I reduced accounting expenses by $1,400, so I think I took $1,200 out of our professional development budget and $200 out of our supplies, which I tell you our budget is very small. So it's a lot to take anything out of. And then in assessing, that's where we have our budget for our regional assessor. He is not a salary employee, he's part of our expenses. His line item is going up 3%, but there's about $400 being cut from the expense line items. And then there's some level funding that's going on there. I think we took $200 away from his professional development, and then maybe another $200 away from publications that they use. And then in general finance, we cut a lot in the budget. Some of it related to professional development. I would say that's probably the biggest area we were able to cut because that's something that we have a little bit more control over, whether we do it or not. And overall, our expenses going down by 1.8%. Very small budget, so if you have questions, I'm perfectly happy to delve in further.
Carlo, did you have anything?
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Sharon. I guess, just so I'm consistent, is there any overtime in this department?
Very, very little. And I think there's about $2,500 in the accounting division, and sometimes we do need that if something's gone wrong and we need somebody to stay late. But for the most part, we try to turn it back to free cash. And I think it's about $2,500 in the general finance as well, which we tend to, only use for emergency purposes.
Okay. Thank you. Everything was pretty much, on point, and thanks.
Listen.
I just wanted to say thank you for being so mindful of your expenses. We all appreciate that. And then congrats to you on the compliment of best print presentation. That was your.
I kind of used what was given to me, so not really for but they definitely bring it forward. They do enjoy the way it is presented, and they thought that it was something that they wanted to share with others. So I think that's something worth knowing.
Yeah, no, congrats to you. Thank you.
Karen.
Thank you very much, Sharon. And so I was wondering if fees associated with late payments with tax bills, water bills, excise bills, any of that stuff, is your department seeing that increasing?
We get a fair amount of that every year. I don't know if I'd say it's increasing. It seems to be pretty stable from year to year.
Okay.
But we do there's a fair amount of revenue in that area.
Okay. What happens to that revenue? Does it just go to?
It's part of the general fund.
Just
It
goes to the
supports the
general
overall
fund.
operating budget. And anything we collect over what we project for revenues goes back to free cash. When we do that regeneration, you can see that. So delinquent taxes and things like that, you would see me break it out for you if it was a large number. But it is something that we do see. I mean, I will say that collections of our property taxes is very, very high. I would say by the end of the year, we've got 99.7% of our taxes collected. So it's not to say that taxes aren't being paid, but there definitely are demand fees that are being paid and late fees and all of that stuff. And we do see a fair amount. I wouldn't say it's increasing. I'd say it's probably about stable.
Okay. All right. And then, so I was on a meeting with the Mass Municipal Women Elected municipal officials, and so a lot of communities are talking about being in structural deficits, and that's an accounting term. Is Reading in a structural deficit?
I would say because we need an override, I would say yes. Because we're using free cash at the level that we are, I would say some portion of that is definitely structural, because you can attribute some of it to our conservative budgeting style, where we continually regenerate at least $3 million every year. So there's some number in there that absolutely is structural, which is why I've said I really do think we need the override. I think the number for free cash is just far too large, and it could impact our S&P bond rating, which we did just recently have reaffirmed at a AAA, and we're very fortunate for that, because free cash did go down by $2 million this year. So I was a little concerned about how that would be viewed. And so they do look at the way we do things in the conservative budgeting style that we have very positively. They do feel like we have a very strong hold on things, but there's only so long we can push out, I guess is what I'd say.
Okay. And you've been so good to publish because it's not just the dollar amount, it's also the percentage. But from what I've heard, like, nobody writes the big checks from free cash that we do, and luckily we're conservative enough that the cash is there and we've been able to do that. But so it would be interesting to start talking about, which components with the finance committee, or how much of that is a structural deficit.
I mean, it's all a matter of opinion, really, because each year we're getting more. Last year was a very low year for regeneration for us. I want to say it was around $4 million. Years prior, we've seen $6 and $7 million. So it's really hard to say what is the real structural deficit. But what I will say is that each department the last few years has been flatlining their expenses the best they can. And then you start to see less and less regeneration because costs have gone up all across the board, and we're not giving them any extra money for these line items. And so you're seeing less and less turn back. And I think the fact that happened last year, where we saw, that we went back down by $2 million, that's a sign that we definitely have some form of a structural deficit there.
Okay, thank you.
Karen?
How often are we reviewed for the bond rating? Just when we borrow?
Every time we borrow.
Okay.
And it's very expensive, so we try to
Right.
I always say to you, I try and structure debt so that we're just, doing it all at once, that we're not doing it multiple times in a year. I think the issuance that you're going to be voting on tonight cost us $450,000, so we're not talking small money. And so when it comes to, and that part of that cost is the S&P rating, which I think was about $50,000, so it's a lot.
And are we scheduled to do it again in the next
couple
years?
We're trying to structure it, and it all depends on how things go with cash flow, but we're trying to structure it to try and see if there's a way that we can do it, that the second tranche of debt won't come on until fiscal 29 if we needed a 28 override. But time will tell if things play out the way it's shown on the cash flow currently. If things move faster or slower, it could change things. But we definitely have a lot of thoughts about how we can structure the debt offerings so that they're less impactful to the residents, especially if an override is needed in the interim. And we've also talked about the potential of, if an override is requested, phasing one in, where you say, well, let's say we need $5 million or $6 million override, but we're thinking that debt will still be hitting in that same year. Maybe you phase it in where you say, okay, over 3 years, so $2 million, so it doesn't hurt as badly. So we've been bouncing around a lot of ideas, but we have to see how these projects play out, and in terms of the timing, if they move faster than what I'm seeing on that cash flow, it might blow up my plan. So, but we are definitely thinking about it, me and the treasurer, Diane Marabito, we're working with the bonding agent and trying to structure things so the pain is as minimal as possible. It's not ideal. Nobody planned for this inflation to happen. It was carefully planned for all of our excluded debt to go away as these projects came in, but nobody really wanted the inflation. Nobody asked for it and it just decided to come. So it isn't perfect timing, but we're trying to manage the impact.
And I am very impressed that you don't really use overtime, being in accounting and all the responsibilities you all have. Kudos to all of you.
If I work overtime, I don't get paid.
Well, I know, but to keep it all, it's a lot of work, and I
Just use
appreciate
that
it.
term.
That's it. But thank you. That's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
And thanks, Sharon. I guess I only have one question. So I didn't see in the packet the actual percentage unless I missed it. So what is the
Percentage
increase?
of the whole thing?
Yes,
Let's go back.
because I see there's,
0.7 is the overall budget.
in which,
Oh, I want to say that, and I was going to get to it after we had some changes, and I think you might notice the library might have made their changes and I made changes. When everybody put their budgets into where we put them in, so I could see if we were in balance with what the guidance was from FinCom, we had a $321,000 deficit, like we were over. So I needed to start cutting the budget. And so I went line by line, looking at everybody's budget, and I started looking at their actuals, looking at their budget, seeing if there was anything, any buffer, any little something. And I had to do this last year too, that I could cut. And I got us back in balance. But to do that, I had to take $56,000 away from the non-union pay charge, which meant that I had to change what we were planning to do for the non-union, which was a step and a COLA, which would be 2.35% for most employees plus a 1.25% COLA. So it was going to be like 3.6. And I had to say, okay, well, let's do a 3% straight COLA and cut the 0.6 to save us some money. And that helped me balance. And then when I sent, as we work very collaboratively, the department heads and I, and so as I make changes to their budget, I'm always very mindful of the impact. So I send them out a revision. This is what I'm proposing. Am I causing you any hardship here by making these cuts? And what I did get back from a lot of department heads was the non-union salary piece. So many of the unions are getting so much more than that because they're under contractual obligation, and knowing that health insurance might be another year of 13% increases, that 3% is going to be absorbed by, that people are going to feel like they're getting we're balancing the budget on the non-union people because they're not a contract. So I said, well, let's see what we can do with that. And the chief of police reached out to me because he had similar concerns. And he said, we have something that's come up that maybe might help us with this. How much money would it take to restore it back to what we originally thought? I said, $56,000. And he's like, we have one police cruiser that was totaled that insurance is going to pay for. So what we can do is we can maybe take that $56,000 away from our cruiser line and restore the non-union back to the 3.6% that we originally planned. So he offered that up very generously, and I adjusted the budgets back. So I had gotten these changes out to the department heads like on Thursday. And so your packets went out on Thursday. Some of us, including myself, would have put a 3% straight, a 3% COLA instead of the step in the COLA. And so what you have in your packet is different from what I'm showing you because I changed it back when we made this change.
yeah, that was my question because I'm seeing that and it's not lining up. I know we got 2 revisions today, so that was my question.
I know that the library had made my changes and then changed it back. I figured I would mention it to you.
Thank you.
May not send you another email because I felt like it was becoming an email fest of revisions. I figured it'd be better just for me to explain.
I think that if we can just make sure that this version gets updated in the select board packet online now.
Okay.
So that the public has whatever we
Absolutely.
just, yep. And that's it
Anything
for
else?
me. No.
Okay, so we'll move on to the shared cost, and then at the end, I'll kind of go over some of where we stand with the budget. So Where's my share button down here? What'd you say? Like this is over here, I can't see the buttons.
That's good.
Okay, so this is the shared cost. Let me get my cursor. So our shared costs are up 23.6%. The biggest driver there is the debt, because we are seeing in fiscal 27 the first tranche of excluded debt. In addition, we're also seeing 3 inside the levy debts being issued, one being pickleball, Birch Meadow Phase 2, and we actually issued permanent debt for the fieldhouse floor. The one good thing that I can say about that is that we ended up issuing less than what I had on my debt schedule. So there was some savings to be found, and I'll show you how that impacts. So I think we borrowed $875 instead of $1 million for pickleball. We had 2.14 scheduled for Birch Meadow, and we only ended up borrowing 1.55. And then I think we also had some savings in capital. When I had done my presentation for FinCom, Joe Huggins came to me and he said, you know, with the capital, you know, you moved up this $65,000 piece of equipment for 2 years just to balance. I don't really need it, just push it back out. Right. So I said, okay. So I took that $65,000 and I also took the savings from the debt and I said, okay, I should be spending this on capital on the normal year, but I'm going to let us go down to 4.5% instead of 4.75 so that I can return more to free cash. So instead of using $6,750,000, we're going to go down to $6,550,000. But we could have saved about $300,000, but I'll explain kind of there was something else that kind of was factored in there. So they're bringing it down $200,000, but it could have been $300,000, and I'll show you as I get to it. So benefits were up 11.1%. Capital is down 27.7%, and part of that is because I had budgeted it to be going down to 4.75. It really is now 4.5 that we're doing. And the debt is up because of the excluded debt and those 3 projects inside the levy. Vocational schools we have at 2.9, and hopefully that doesn't move because we got that surprise this year of $240,000 that I wasn't expecting. Their budget last year went up 10.18%, which was crazy. And it was like a 50% increase from the year before what we had to pay them. So I'm hoping that that gave us a good baseline that we're not going to see another big number, but right now we're at 2.9. And then the reserves being the same from the prior year, we pretty much stay the same every year. So under benefits, a little bit more detail. Gosh, let me move this. I got the little screen that shows everybody and I can't see my screen. So retirement is 6.5% increase. And you can see that pension is 5%. It had been 8.33%. I do sit on the retirement board and every 2 years we do a evaluation of our pension liability and to do a new funding schedule. And I share with the board that, you know, the 8.33 came at the worst possible time. Inflation hit and we just couldn't afford it. And they dropped it down to, you know, pushed it out 1 more year and dropped it down to this 5%. Last year we did 200,000 for OPEB. We are only able to do 300,000, but that's a 50% increase. Medicare up 2.5. Health insurance, they're telling us again to expect something in the same range of what we got this year, 13.5. So I went to 14. Not a nice number because it's a big number. Workers' comp up 4%, indemnification 3.8, unemployment is up 62.5%. It's a small number, but it's just a big jump for us. It's 130,000. I think it was like 65 the year before. So, wait, did I go? Yeah, sorry. This is our capital. That thing again. We're spending $2,961,500 on capital, and this is the detail of what we've chose to use it for. We tried to put as much as we could towards road paving because it is costing us so much more. We're trying to do the best we can with the budget that we have. And we do still have that $50,000 under permanent building committee, but we could reassign that somewhere else if we want, or we could take it as savings and take it off altogether. But I didn't do anything with it this year. I just wanted to get some kind of feedback on what we think, because we have the last 2 years used it. I think we used it towards the recal project for some of their design work. I want to say they used it for bidding or something, I don't remember. But there was definitely the last 2 years we did in fact use it, so it made me a little hesitant to take it away. $300,000 is going to be used for the elevator replacement at the Main Street Fire Station. We have a carpenter's truck. We have doors and windows at the school at $40,000. We have an arc hazard study for town buildings. We just did one for school, $144,000. And then we have $250,000 for school technology projects, as well as $10,000 for their phone systems that we do every year. $80,000 for service for the building security system. $125,000 for technology projects within the town. Then we have our basic life support AED that we're buying for both fire and police. We try and time it so we buy them at the same time. $60,000 for rescue tools for fire. $30,000 for breathing air bottles for fire, $20,000 for the multi-gas meters for fire. We have a lot of fire this year. Turnout gear, $350,000. Then in parks, we have a $100,000 tractor. We have $42,500 for mowers. We have, every year we have $50,000 for general fence replacement, so we're always working on that. Every year we have $100,000 for field, playground, and court improvements. So we haven't identified what exactly, but we always try and hold 100,000 in there. 100,000 for rock wall repairs, 50,000 for parking lot improvements. We do those every year as well. We also have 50,000 for Forest Street crosswalk improvements. And that is design for those improvements. And we tried to increase whatever we could, 120,000. I think we normally do 100,000 for sidewalk, curb and pedestrian safety. So wherever we can squeeze out a little bit more, we try and put more there. 100,000 for this skim coating and 685 for road paving. This is the debt in more detail. Move that out of the way. So basically, I break it down to within the levy. Within the levy, our debt is up 30%, and it's broken down. It's broken down to the different school buildings, town buildings, and community improvements for you there. And also, oops, didn't mean to do that. Going back the wrong way. Now it's like flying away. Sorry about that. So the excluded debt is broken down by Killam and Recal, and it's that first debt service is going to be $5,195,837. We ended up borrowing just a little bit more than I wanted to originally, but when we started thinking about trying to time it out so that we could go longer, we borrowed just a little bit more. So I think we borrowed $50,000 for Killam. I mean, $50 million for Killam and $20 million for Recal. And it's important that we do it in tranches too, because as we get closer, we'll be able to figure out, you know, do we have savings within this budget? We don't want to borrow too much. There's arbitrage laws that we need to abide by. And so that's the reason we try and do it in tranches. So the other thing that we have on this slide is the AAA bond rating, which was reaffirmed on November 25th. And then we also issued debt, and you're going to be, after I'm done here, you'll be approving that debt. We actually had a $75 million issuance, but we got it at 3.317, the interest rate, but we got a $7.5 million premium. So we ended up only having, what they do with that premium is they reduce your borrowing. And so this here is just telling you that that's what the issuance is. So we really did borrow the $70 million, and looks like it's less, but it's because we apply the premium towards the debt and don't borrow as much money. And then this is the vocational schools, and in that number is $338,000 for our share of that building project at that school. And then obviously our FinCom reserves stay the same. Now it can go away. Any questions?
Carla, did you have anything?
Yeah, sorry, my
Oh, I can see it.
I was having trouble with the mute. So I guess the question would be, since health is going up so much again, what is the contribution now of our employees to the health benefits? What percent?
So they pay 29% of the health insurance, and we pay 71.
I think we had this discussion last year at a financial forum. I think we need to up that. I think a few of us mentioned that. It could be wrong, but that needs to be looked into, and the retirement and other stuff, that's just, crippling us, but there's nothing we can do about that. But the health benefits, I think we need to take a look at that and increase that. I don't know what the norm is in municipalities, 20%, 40%, 29, which we do, but I'd like us to look at that, please. And is it the rock wall in the field house? Is that the rock wall we're talking about?
I don't think so.
Or where is the rock wall?
The rock walls are done every year. I think it's just general rock walls that we have on our properties, like in parks and cemeteries and such.
Stone wall.
Stone wall, yeah.
Not a climbing wall, right?
It's not a rock wall that you climb. It's
Oh,
like-
God, sorry, because I thought we had a climbing wall
No,
somewhere.
no, it has to do with.
It's historic.
Yeah.
Gotcha, sorry.
And as far as the health insurance, we do meet with the, is it called the public?
Yeah, so it's the Public Employee Committee. I have been meeting with them. We've been talking about plan design. We have another meeting with them tomorrow. And they are committed to lowering costs too. So it's a good committee. All of the unions are represented on that committee. So it's basically me and the unions, and Sharon, Jane, Sean are all in those meetings as well. So it's something we're actively looking at, and we'll have more. I think, Carlo, we brought that agreement to you in an executive session last year, and that may be what you're referring to. So.
Yeah, I know we had a discussion about it, and a lot of people are struggling, consumers, business owners, towns, cities. We got to spread this out a little bit, because at the pace we're going, Stoneham passed their override today, and I guess that's good for them, but bad in the same sentence. But I don't know what our future holds for us, but they passed a $9 million override, and not going to sit well with a lot of people in that community. But I guess it had to be done to have the town run properly. But I think we just got to, I know you're going to work on it. I appreciate that, but I think we really have to get into the 30s. I think that has to happen. I don't know how it happens, but I think that has to happen. Thanks.
Melissa?
Thank you, Sharon. Just a couple of quick questions. On the vocational schools, I know you said, and it was presented, I think, at town meeting, that we went up so much this past year, 50%. Is that our portion based on the amount of kids we have there? Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
it does fluctuate.
Our enrollment has increased from over the last couple of years, from 32 students to 51.
Got it.
And so every year their expenses are allocated out to the communities based on your prorated share of their overall population. So we get a bigger piece of the capital, and also we're paying more because we have more students there. So it changes a lot. So I'm hoping that we won't see a huge jump here, because we really can't afford it this year.
Yeah. And do you know if the enrollment is any different from last year to this year?
That's the problem. When we're building the budget, we don't know. And we have to estimate, based on what we know and who's there, and, but it's really a crapshoot. We really don't know. And that's why you frequently will see this item adjusted at November town meeting, because that's when we'll learn sometime after school starts who's enlisted over there. And so it's very difficult to budget. We do the best we can, but I would never budget a 10% increase for their budget, and it was a 50% increase over what we paid the year before. So that's not a number I would have ever dreamt up myself.
Yeah. Okay. Why is unemployment up so much?
A lot of it, it's hard to tell because some of it's on the school side. I think most of it's on the school side, and I'm not entirely sure. I'm not privy to what's going on there, but I do see the rise in the bills. But it's not information I see the details on.
Do you want me to say?
Oh, do you know?
That'd be great, thank you. Sean?
We work with Maya, who works with a third-party vendor for us to tackle the unemployment claims. One of the cases that we do, like other municipalities, is I believe the term is reimbursable employers. So we have to pay out only when those claims come in, but the state has a very interesting determination as to, somebody leaves and, they work somewhere else and somehow we still owe a portion and we can try to protest it, which we do. It's a very complicated formula that I've tried to fight, but anyway. But they're very unexpected, as Sharon said. It's hard to predict, but when they come in, usually on a monthly basis, I'll look at the town ones and the school will look at the school ones, and we'll look to see, like, is there any issue here? What can we do to, protest it? And we do our very best to protest whatever we can to drive it down as much as possible. And from time to time, although again, I don't know why it takes so long, but you start to see charges come off, but they're sometimes like a year later. Sharon and I were talking about this in the summer as we were trying to reconcile FY25. It was like, how do we do this? Because it's odd, but anyway, it's all over the place sometimes at the state level.
All right, I'm not surprised, but thank you for the clarification. And I just wanted to say thank you for increasing the road paving. I think that's a necessity right now. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Karen?
Great, thank you. Okay, I would love to thank you for letting us know that the Permanent Building Committee did use some of that budget. I think we all agreed at town meeting we need to do a master plan, and then that got taken out, right?
It got pushed out in here.
And I think Carla brought that up at a recent meeting. I'd really like to see if we could get that back on track. It's so overdue, and I think it's about the same.
I think it's a lot more money than that.
Is it? Was that 200?
Yeah. I thought it was 200,000. It was a lot.
Right, and we were looking at grants. The first grant we applied to, we didn't get. We're still looking at other grants to cover it. I know Andrew's handling that for us, but it's something on our radar screen for sure.
Okay, I saw on the Green Communities website, electric lawnmowers, and I think doors and windows can definitely, go into that category. So those are some of the things on that capital list, just like basic stuff, and I know we're just looking, so I figured I'd just mention that up. It is interesting to see towns now starting to buy e-mowers. So anyway, that's...
I didn't even know they existed.
No, they do.
Yeah, well, we just bought an snow blower at my house, and it wasn't cheap, but yep, they're very powerful and they work. So okay, the 3-point. Thanks for the feedback on adjusting the employee contributions. I'm glad you're talking to them about that. I am hearing what some other communities are doing. I thought we said recently they were at 25%. So I didn't think there was an opportunity there. And I don't know if I was miscommunicated, but maybe there's a small
29.
opportunity that we could work to get that less expensive. And then, so here's a thought. We talk about, every year we talk about recreation turning back free cash, and then we have a line item of field and playground maintenance every year in the capital plan. Like, and I heard some of Joe's comments, like, I am responsible for keeping all these moving, and I have these budgets, and when I have savings in one area, then I can redeploy it to like some other piece of equipment that I'm gonna have to repair anyway. So does it make any sense at some point to get rec more of on that kind of a system? It's like, they know they have to maintain these fields and playgrounds every year, and
I think they do pay, there is money that comes in from rec to help with the support of the fields. So there is some, that's after the fact. This is what closes out that 108,000 that Jane referred to. That's after they've paid support for the fields and stuff. So the 100,000 you see in the capital plan is really for capital work, not maintenance, but capital work. So like if we were doing playgrounds, or if we were doing the turf over or something like that, we were doing something that they would consider to be capital. But mowing and stuff would be like maintenance.
Well, I hear what
and
you're
stuff.
saying, and I think what the capital is sometimes, my understanding, and so bark mulch replenishment, but that's, I don't know if that's capital or not. But the playground equipment wears out, and they, they're small items, they're smaller than doing a whole field.
Yeah.
So that's why I just brought that up. Okay. And then the 3.1% borrowing, I missed the length of that debt. Was that 20,
So it
25?
varies. So for the Killam, it will be a 20-year borrowing.
Okay.
And for Recal, we did a 15. And then the other ones, I believe, are all 10 years. Pickleball, the field toss floor, and birch metal, all 10 years. So they all have different terms just based on, the size.
Right. No, I saw another community doing like 25 for like their new school or their new senior center. I remember what probably, and where you're talking about, tranching it, and I love the under borrowing, like getting close but not going over, which is I think the way a lot of people do their own budgeting at home. So I appreciate that. So I didn't know. I mean, as you're thinking about things, whether there's an opportunity for us to go a little bit longer on these two buildings at an additional time.
You mean borrow for longer? Well, we've already kind of issued this tranche, so there would be no opportunity there, but I will say.
There's only 70 million though.
I know,
So
no,
more.
there'll be more for the second
That's what I was
tranche
talking about.
possibly, but what I will say is that when you look at the debt schedules for a 30-year borrowing, a 25, a 20, and 15, the 30-year borrowing, like when you see like the Killam project, I immediately defaulted, we'll have to do that 30, that's way too big. But when I saw that debt schedule for that project, it was doubling the amount of the project. The interest was doubling the amount of the project. And for the difference of $60, I could bring it down to $60 for a resident, average resident, additional $60, I could bring it down to 20. So
But $60, I'm just like this year, like that's $60 per resident that somebody can have in their pocket. And that's why I'm just gonna make this.
to make it go away 10 years earlier. So we were balancing that. Because the other thing we always have to keep in mind is right now we don't have another building on the horizon that we're looking on, but there will be one eventually. And you don't want this to make it so we can't, if we're borrowing for such a long time when we're burdened by debt for too long, we won't be able to roll in more. And there will be something that will present itself, especially if we do the facilities master plan, there will be something that presents itself that we will need to start thinking about for the future. So we want
pros and cons.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is that S&P was very vocal about the fact that they like that we pay off our debt quickly. That's something that makes us stronger than most, is that we do try to pay the debt off quickly. And interest is a big deal. Like when you saw these two debt plans from a 30 to a 20, and the difference was for the average taxpayer $60 in a year, I would rather see it go. If it was me, I'd rather force the $60 and get it to go away in 10 years earlier. So our decision may not be what everybody would have done, but we definitely were trying to minimize how much interest we were paying on these projects and make them go away as quickly as possible, so that there's room for more projects in the future and that we're not burdened so much for so long.
I know, and I know there's pros and cons, and what we have done over the years is we've refinanced some of these debts. So I would say my concern is that right now people are struggling, and I'm not saying it has to be 100% across the board, but to continue what you're doing is trying to balance these. And I would suggest that maybe in the next tranche, borrowing for a little bit longer with the understanding, and depending, rates could be a little bit lower then, because we're expecting a little more cuts. So rates might be a little lower, could come in the same price. I would just ask you to keep looking at that.
We are
because
always looking, I appreciate that.
Because $60 to some residents still matters, because $60 here, $50 here. Can you tell me again, because I shared what you told us last time, and people are still asking me, when are the debt exclusions first going to hit our tax bills?
So I have a question out to Victor, because we do know that we've issued debt. Preliminary bills are usually based on your prior year bills, because we haven't set our tax rate yet.
Yeah.
And these would be on the tax rate for fiscal '27 wouldn't show up, I don't think, until January. But he did say if we would want to have it on the preliminary, he would see how difficult it would be to do that. But my expectation would be January, because that's the first bill where you actually have the real tax rate after it's been set, after the DOR has certified her tax rate. That's the bill that, chews everything up. And so my guess would be that would be.
So that's what you told us before, and that's what I told somebody. They're like, that can't be accurate. But does it mean that because we're not making any payments, like for any of us who buys a car, gets a mortgage, when you're not paying for an entire year, does that mean interest is accruing, which is gonna cost us more? Or no, is this
We're
work
still
differently?
making our interest payments. It's part of our budget.
Okay.
And we are a strong enough community that we have cash flow that even if it was later in the year that we're getting the money from the residents, we're able to still make our debt payments. So what happens is every 6 months we pay an interest payment, and once a year we pay a principal payment. Those principal payments are like in October. And we can schedule, we can figure out where the best month is. And that was the month that the treasurer selected, I believe, is October. But the cash flow for the town, we're very fortunate that we usually have sufficient cash on hand. So it's not an issue, even if we were getting the money in the last 2 quarters of the year. We will still be able to make those interest and principal payments. So, and also keeping in mind, we're holding all this money that we borrowed as well. We're going to be looking to, secure that money until it's needed, in higher interest rate vehicles. So,
okay.
So I think that we still will be fine. And it's only the first year where you'll see that, and then the next year it will be.
You're just gonna have to keep repeating it, and also we're talking about potentially an override like next fall before the debt exclusions have hit. That's what I'm worried about, because that's not gonna be hitting. Because I want, and maybe we need another calculator, because I don't want to surprise anyone.
A calculator for when we.
Yeah,
do,
like
I
people
think
need
that
to
sort of
know,
thing would
like,
be necessary.
they're like, oh, I don't want them thinking, oh, this is great, we just did 2 buildings and it really hasn't been that bad, so yeah, do the override, and then we crush them in January. Like, that would just be a disaster.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
That would be horrible, honestly.
Karen, did you have anything?
No, I'm good.
No, perfect. Thank you, Sharon. I took the 15-year approach with my own mortgage. So obviously 30 years or 20, whatever, would have been phenomenal. But in 7 years, I'm going to be very happy. So I appreciate you going this route and justifying $60. It's going to be the gymnastics that are going to be required next month to saddle increasing things with CPA by $95 is going to be a work of art to see how that somehow squares away. So stay tuned for that, I guess. The only other question I had on the capital spending, and I know Joe is going to end up saying that, I'll be happy to talk to you offline about the servers for building security, because that just pains me to see $80,000 for that. And then the other $125,000 for technology projects for the town. What is included in that?
So we every year have something in our capital plan for technology, and the chief technology officer will decide what we use that for. So it's always at least $100,000, and we do the same for the school and the town. It's always there. We're trying to increase it because it's not going as far, and we're seeing more and more of technology coming back to us, asking for more money at April town meeting or November town meeting, because things have come up. And so it's whatever he's going to need for that year. So we don't specify what exactly it is, but there's always something. And he a lot of times will hold on to this money until towards the end, because he wants to make sure that no surprises come up. But he does have a plan, in usually most years, but I don't usually specify because I don't necessarily know. Every year we try and give them $100,000 at least in each budget. The school department a couple of years ago came to me and said, when we went to one-to-one devices during the pandemic, those devices are aging out and we don't have sufficient capital to actually replace these devices. So you notice that when I went with the schools, theirs is $250,000. I tried to take some of that burden away from them the best I could. So I feel like that 100,000 has been what we've been doing for years and years and years, and now the costs have gone up. It's really not going very far, especially where you're talking about for the whole town. Well, all the town side and then the school side, 100,000 doesn't go very far when you're talking about technology.
Yeah, so omitting the school portion, I guess my concern is on the town portion. Why isn't that under Kevin's budget anywhere?
Well, because capital isn't in anybody's budget. Capital is voted, when we go to town meeting, you know how we vote the line items? Capital is its own line item. And so all the capital for the town is in one, it's in their department for sure in our system. But when you're voting their budget, you're doing technology salary, technology expense, capital is everything up above. So you will be voting the 2.96 million as one number, providing details of what makes that up, but it actually hits all the different departments that have capital. So it wouldn't be in his budget because capital never is shown that way because we voted as one line item, and then just their expenses and salary are, department by department.
So I guess I'm just confused over what ends up getting classified as a capital project under the IT realm, where certain other things like Kevin presented before, I would kind of equate to the same bucket, like $78,000 whatever increases on some software scenario that he did. Like that is clearly a project, but it's not a capital project, even though it's
when you're talking about
virtual.
licensing and maintenance
Yeah.
agreements, those aren't capital. When we're talking capital, we're talking about the servers, we're talking about the bigger things that are maintaining our software packages. Like the Munis software, we're not cloud-based. He's keeping servers that run all of our systems and stuff, and they're expensive pieces of equipment. And we're not even really talking about computers. Computers, in my mind, they don't fall into capital typically for us because they're just too small and their life is too short. Usually it's something that costs more than $5,000 individually, one piece. And that's usually the bigger IT items like the servers. So yeah, $100,000 doesn't go very far. And when we did, the thing that I asked for, the $80,000 for the building security, that was because of all the work that we've done to support that system. He needs that, whatever that is, servers or whatever. And so I don't know enough about the technology to be able to tell you why it's that expensive, but I trust his quote, and obviously he can't use it for anything else. When the bills come over, we all review them. And so I can't give you enough detail to kind of break down what he would use it for because I don't know everything.
Yeah, I guess it would be helpful in the future because like when he presented and everything, like I think he had firewalls in there. And I know some of those or switches can easily cost over $5,000. But it was included in there, now it's not included in here with a $5,000 buffer. Like I can easily see a mix on things. I'm sure there's other ones in here. It's just that I'm very familiar with.
So some things he
known.
might have classified as
Correct.
expenses that you might normally think of as capital.
Yeah, like you can get a Cisco 48 port switch for $1,000, or you can get a $10,000 one that
Yeah.
is all fancy with the 3-year software plan and all the other garbage they have. So it's definitely a significant difference.
Yeah, whatever he presented to you when he was here would not have included this money at all.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he differentiates what the things are that he considers his capital, but I know for me, it's got to cost $5,000 individually and have a useful life of at least 5 years for me to even entertain it as capital.
Mhm.
So that's my threshold. He may have some different thoughts about what he uses expense money for, but capital is usually the bigger things, the servers.
All righty, anyone else? Okie dokie.
Do you want me to just give you a quick summary of where we land with all of this?
Sure.
Oh, this thing is in the way again. The little box that shows what. Okay, there we go. So as I spoke of before, FinCom had allowed us to use $6,750,000 of free cash to support this operating budget. But because we did have the savings, we had a few things that went on with the debt. I mentioned borrowing less for pickleball, borrowing less for Birch Meadow. The other thing that I pushed out on the debt plan that was originally part of the fiscal 27 numbers was the Parker Turf. They still haven't asked for a debt authorization. And so when I inquired about that, they said the earliest we could be ready for that is June, so we probably wouldn't even ask for it until April. So I said, geez, I wouldn't have anything else to borrow. So what I would probably more than likely do if this project proceeds is we, if it gets authorized at town meeting, is do a ban, a short-term borrowing, and so that I can line it up with issuing the second tranche of debt. So I left just the interest for that debt on the debt schedule, and I took the principal payment of $150,000 away. So we had about $300,000 of savings all in all between the $65,000 saved from capital and then whatever we saved from the debt. So typically in a normal year, we would just turn around and increase our capital so that we got to that 5%, but we had already reduced it to 4.75. I brought it down to 4.5. The other thing that we needed to do to balance was that the $321,000 that we had was just too hard to cut without taking one piece out. And the piece I took out, and I'm going to ask FinCom to fund with some of that savings, is the $80,000 for technology for the new software for the police department. It's the licensing and the maintenance for the new CAD software. And $80,000, to find that in your budget when you're this tight is just horrible. And so what I did was I put it in as a community priority. So down under the accommodated cost section, we have a section that we put things as community priority, and you can see that in prior years, we were giving the school department $150,000 as a community priority to get to full day K to be tuition free. And this is the last year that shows up. And so we didn't have a community priority for fiscal 27, but the $321,000, I went line by line and I looked at actuals to budget, and I took me and Matt sat down. I'm like, I've been losing sleep over this. I cannot get the full 321. I'm gonna take this 80,000 and I'm gonna ask FinCom to allow us to take some of that debt savings and put it in as a community priority. So I was able to cut everything but that 80,000. And so we are taking down that free cash use from 6,750,000 to 6,550,000. So I think that's a more palatable number. It's still not a number I like seeing. It's way too high. I don't love it. We are where we are. But I wanted to make sure that you guys were fully aware of what I was going to request from FinCom when we meet with them, and see if they're okay with that. Because if not, then we still have to find another 80,000. Right now, I have this budget in balance. And I sent every department head the changes and the back and forth to try and negotiate how to get there. I mean, there's definitely a couple people that came back and like, ooh, that's not a line, I can take that cut. And then we went back and looked at something else. At this point, we are in balance with that 2.75 with the exception of this $80,000. The other thing I wanted to show you is where all the departments land after I make my changes, which I'll show here, just a little spreadsheet. Is it even here? I thought I had it open. Maybe it's not. Hold on a second, I gotta open it. I thought I had it open. Oh yeah, budget cuts. Last year, I will say that we have such a cooperative team, like everybody, whatever they could do to help this budget, nobody really fought back with me. They're like, we'll manage, it's gonna be fine, because they knew how stressed I was about trying to get this in balance. So share. I didn't share it yet, because I couldn't find it. Too many things open. So this is where we are. Is it too big? I can't see it all. So administrative services, I cut $38,528 from their budget, bringing them down to a 2.77% budget. DPW, the budget they presented, they said they were going up 1.8, but that's where the stormwater money was coming out, and I neglected the template I gave him. I neglected to take it out of, because the way I looked at it, that 180,000 was being used to reduce free cash and was not going to be used to fund the rest of the operating budget. So I neglected to take out what's there for this year, so he thought he was only going up 1.84. But really, I look at it like that, what's left? What are those line items going up? And so he's going up 4.09%. His line items were really hard because things are costing us a lot. And he's, one line item would he be saving to cover overage on another line item. Things are that tight. But I still could not afford what he was asking for, so I had to cut $70,200. And I felt like his requests were definitely in line with what we normally would do in a normal year, but we just couldn't afford it in this year. And so wherever I could cut, I cut, and I cut $70,200 from his budget, leaving him at 4.09.
So you're saying the presentation we saw last week, where it was 1.8 rainbows and butterflies, it's now?
It included fiscal 26 having stormwater still sitting there. So it looks like you're going down, like there's a huge reduction there, $180,000 of because those lines were zero for fiscal 27. So in order to make it all relative, I have to back it out because it wasn't really, that $180,000 wasn't funding the budget. It was actually reducing free cash use. And so not putting it on his template made it very confusing for him that he's like, oh, I'm only going up 1.84, but I'm like, these line items I didn't take out. So he wasn't wrong in that his budget is only going up 1.84, but that money went to free cash to reduce free cash use. And so that's why I say he's really, the lines that remain after you take away those employees that are being moved to stormwater go up 4% after I cut this 70,000. He was somewhere around 5%. His line items absolutely need more of an infusion. I mean, there's lines like we do sidewalk and patchwork in the capital plan, and there's smaller things that he does on his expenses. Those were all running over. So many of his line items really needed an infusion. So he was very much right to ask for what he needs, but we couldn't do all of it with a 2.75% budget. A 2.75% budget is a very modest municipal budget. We're doing very, very little for that kind of money. So we couldn't right the ship of all the line items. He could use a little bit more budget. And I mean, that's where you see the pain, is that every year it's getting worse, trying to find a little buffer to pull out. But he had this sidewalk line that was like 25,000 and I was only able to give him 22. Like, you're gonna have to do a little less. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's just really difficult to cut a budget when that's what you're seeing, when you're seeing so many line items where they're not spending their office supplies to cover overages on another line because they just can't ask for enough, because we've been flatlining the expense budget as much as we can for the last couple of years. This is where it shows up, less being turned back to free cash, less regeneration, and a just much harder budget for them to work with. So I don't think he was wrong in asking for what he was asking for. I just couldn't do it all in 1 year. He restored some of the lines to a level that the most important lines, the highest priority lines, and then I had to cut this much from his budget. The core, I did not take anything because, as Joe had mentioned, I took $135,000 out of his utilities under accommodated costs. So I'd already kind of taken a huge piece of his budget away because we had some savings there. So he didn't really have much to work with. So I didn't touch his budget after that. Because when we talk about these budgets here, these are just their operating budgets when I pull out accommodated costs. Joe Huggins has a lot of accommodated costs. He's got the electricity and he's got gas, and all those fall under accommodated cost. And we take care of those before we break out the budget between the school and the town. So when I look at these numbers, when I'm referring to these numbers, it's without the accommodated costs that are built into their budget. And so I didn't go after any more money from his budget because he really could, there wasn't anything left I could take. I took another $700 from my budget, bringing us down to 2.7. Fire, I took $30,500, bringing them down to 3.69, and they also had a lot of increases related to increasing the ambulance fees. I had to leave those lines alone, but any line I could take a little bit of money, I had to take it out. Health, we took about $6,500 away, bringing them down to a 1.41% operating budget. The library is under the trust fund commissioners. when I did the salary change, I was able to show a number there, but once I changed it back, it ends up being back what she proposed, which is a 2.65% budget. The police department took on an additional $56,000 so that we could restore the non-union back to what we had originally planned, bringing their budget down to 1.68%. And then public services, we took $17,800 and bringing it down to 2.26. And technology, I took $4,000 away from him, and that was hard too because he had that same situation going on where he's saving money from one line to pay for overages on another. It's really, really tight on the expense side, and it has been for a while, and it's just getting really harder to balance these budgets. So in the end, I cut $241,728 from the budgets that you saw. And then this $80,000, I'm gonna need to ask FinCom to support me using that savings from debt towards it and calling it a community priority. Because when we call something a community priority, it becomes an accommodated cost for 1 year to build it into the baseline budget, and then it's there for the next year. You know, now he's got that $80,000 in his baseline budget, and next year he just builds upon that. If that contract goes up, it's not gonna be 80,000, it'll be 2,000 or whatever it is. So this was a very painful budget. I lost sleep over it. I'm sure the department has lost sleep over it, but you wouldn't know it from the interactions that I had with them. Each one of them took every cut that I proposed in stride, and the same thing last year. I hate cutting their budgets because I know how tight they are, but we wanted to go as lean as we could this year, and a 2.75% budget is as lean as it gets for most municipalities. And some of these departments are walking away with a lot less than that 2.75. So I just wanted to let you know that every one of these department heads cooperated and did whatever they could to help me find what I needed to find. If I proposed something that was a hardship for their budget, then we tried to find something else in their budget to make it up. So I just wanted to make sure that you know that we are all working really hard to try and make these budgets work.
So the total of all those percentages is 2.75% if you were to.
Mm-hmm. In the end, when you look at the actual budget, when you add up, most of the accommodated costs are in the town side with the exception of out-of-district special ed. So if you took from our financial forecast, if you took the town amount and our accommodated cost, I made sure that that total balances to what's on my financial forecast. So we are in balance right now. And every department head has agreed to all of these cuts. But it's not easy. We've been doing the best we can with what is not an ideal circumstance.
Okay.
Karen.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'm starting to get calls. I don't know if you all are getting calls yet that, so community events that we do, there are police details, and now the word is going out that if you're hosting a community event, the town is no longer going to be able to pay for your police detail. You're going to have to do that. So like Falls Tree Fair. I was going to ask you a question about how when it's an eternal event like Oktoberfest and we have a police detail, are we paying like rack rates and that kind of stuff? But I just want to let select board members know I'm already talking to residents who, you know, run various communities, and that's a change because this is so tight. That's one of the ways that you guys are getting to these numbers, and it's going to get pushed out to the community, and that's one example.
Are you saying between last week's meeting and today this happened?
Yeah. So for next year's event, so the
Yes.
word's going out, yeah.
Because that's what we briefly mentioned. And like Melissa.
Yeah.
I thought we just talked about, you know, looking into options of, you know, if the event was sponsored by outside people, could some of that funding pay for the police detail? I don't think we ever came to a conclusion that we weren't gonna pay for them. Or, you know, maybe we would, you know, pay half and then, you know, then the town would
still
cover
like to
half.
talk about that, you know.
Oh, I think we need to
'cause I didn't know
talk
how
about
much
it, but I don't think it
talking
was
about.
ever discussed that it was 100% changing. I think it was just a conversation that needed to be had.
I think it's in their budget. Some portion of
Yeah.
overtime is
It's
increased
there,
to
yeah.
a lot for some of that, but it is something that overtime is killing them, like.
100%. 100%. And I do think it's something that we really do need to talk about, because as much as I love having all of these community events, and they are great events, that's a huge cost.
Yeah, no, it is. And we always ask during the DRT process, if it's usually some nonprofit or community, could you actually pay for these? Do you have it in your budget to do that? And some do, or they can pay for a portion of it. Some just say, we can't do the event now unless we have this. And we just feel that it's a community event that people rely on. It's a good event, so we have it budgeted and we'll use it, but we try to use it sparingly.
Oh, I think the problem will be is that whatever policy comes in has to be used across the board.
Yeah.
Whatever
No,
policy is
true. Yeah,
made needs to be
certainly.
used
You don't
across the
wanna
board. We
favor
can't
one.
pick and choose which groups we're gonna say, okay, yep, we'll pay for you, but we're not gonna pay for you.
Right.
That's a terrible way to do it.
Yeah.
So we
no,
just have to
don't-
do it
And we
across
don't
the
do it,
board.
we ask them, and it's based on their own, but sometimes they budget in for these things. And so
Yeah.
we ask, do you have it in your budget to do that? But
Yeah.
it's not like we favor one over the other or anything. That would be,
Yeah, no, I do think it's a great conversation to have.
Yep.
So none of the cuts that you made, Sharon, are impacting this at all? Like,
Impacting the.
what just happened? Like, I didn't think that what Karen said actually happened.
I don't know about that. I definitely think the numbers that you're seeing include some overtime for those types of events. So it could be something that could be cut to restore something else if that is what. I have not heard that. That doesn't mean it isn't true that they aren't talking about that. This budget does have overtime in it to help support some of these details for these events, from what I understood. And so if something about that changes, that's something that could maybe be restored from my list of cuts. If they do decide to do that.
Yeah, I think we'll take this offline and Matt can follow up and just circulate an email to us and then we can discuss it, a policy like we kind of want to have in the future based on.
Okay.
But we just need clarification on that.
Okay.
That's all I have for you. I think that Diane's doing the.
Yeah, we'll get to that that's a separate agenda item. So, yeah. So thank you. I just wanted to, wrap up by thanking all the department heads as they leave for their hard work on these budget, which Sharon said was correct. It was a team effort and a lot of hard work. And then, you're familiar with the process. I have until February to submit the budget to FinCom. We're going to be still working on things. Sometimes surprises come up. And also I want to take input from the select board having had these meetings. So if you have been put on it one way or the other, let me know. As Sharon said, we've sort of jumped the gun a little bit, already gone ahead and made some cuts to the level 1 budget. Level 1 is strictly what the department heads ask for. I don't even really look at them until late in the process, and we have to see if we're balanced. So, and then it goes to FinCom in March and then town meeting in April. So that's same process every year. Yes.
Question. Do we have any earmark discussion requests in process currently?
We always do. If I get emails and correspondence from state reps, state senator, when it's earmark season, we always do put in earmarks, and I think we have a few pending. I can go back and look, but yes, for the state budget. That's in the state budget. Yeah. And so that's it for our budget discussions tonight, and we can move. We have a few other agenda items, so if you're so inclined.
Yep, yeah, so I guess it's page 84 of the packet, the discussion and vote on extension of deadlines for town manager review.
Yeah, so again, we talked about this last meeting. I think it's favorable to everybody to move it out of the holiday season with school vacation, everything coming up. I know the superintendent is one of the mandatory people that would need to do the review. I know there's school vacations and people take holidays. And so it essentially just pushes the deadlines. I'm agreeing to push the deadlines back a month. So February 10th, you'll have a meeting. You can button up the review on that date and then let me know on the contract renewal by the 16th. That moves it from January 9th. I agree to the 10th because you have a meeting on the 10th, and January 16th. So essentially just moves it up a month.
Okay, thank you.
Makes it easier, so yeah.
Carlo, did you have any questions on that?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Anyone else? Do you have a motion, Karen?
Move that the board extend the deadlines of the town manager review to be completed by February 10th, 2026, and notification of contract renewal to be completed by February 16th, 2026.
Second.
Seconded by Karen Herrick. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Carlo,
Yes.
Karen Rose Gillis,
Yes.
Karen Herrick,
Yes.
Alyssa,
Yes.
and Chris, yes.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And next is the bond issuance. Is Diane coming down or is she?
I think she's on Zoom.
Okay, our treasurer, I believe, is on Zoom, so she'll be speaking.
If she isn't, I can speak to her.
I don't see.
Oh, no,
Hello,
she's-
can everyone hear me?
Oh, she is, yes.
Oh, can you
Yes.
see me? Hold on a
Yes, we can
second.
hear you.
Hold on. Can you see me now?
Yes, we
Yes.
Now we can see you, yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Hi, everyone. So on December 3rd, the town offered general obligation bonds for sale totaling $75,425,000. The bond issuance was sold to the underwriter who offered the lowest effective rate on the bonds. We received a net interest rate of 3.317%, which in this interest rate environment is amazing. This largely was due to the attractiveness of the bond because of our AAA bond rating. We received a premium totaling $6,909,719.25, which allowed us to reduce our bond issuance to $68,915,000. And the remainder of the premium will be used to pay our issuance costs. In your packet, I provided the final bond structure that I'll briefly discuss, so I'll share that to the screen today, right now. Hold on a moment. Just share. Oh, it said sharing is not turned on, so let me just send that request.
Oh, Maddie has to make it so she can share.
Yeah, Maddie can make it so you can share. It should be.
You should be good now, Diane.
Okay, let me try to share it. It's not up for some reason. Let me. Hold on a moment. Not sure why it's not showing on my screen. Hold on a moment. It's on my screen, but it's not sharing for some reason. Hold on a moment.
Do you see the green share button?
I do, but it's not showing up on my screen for some reason. I'm not sure if it's because it's on a different monitor.
Did you send it to Maddie and Maddie could share it?
Sure.
Or is it in the packet by chance or no?
But I'll send that to her right now. Hold on a moment.
I don't know that it's all of it's in the packet. Because we had to wait to.
If it's the stuff that's in the packet, I have it.
I got it. I have it right here. Everyone can see this?
Yep.
Okay.
Can't read it anyway.
So, this is the final bond structure. The lower right-hand side, the $75,425,000, that is the amount we needed to request to borrow to fund the above projects.
Can she zoom?
We applied a premium of $6,510,000.
They can't see it. Can you make it larger? Can you possibly make it larger? I've made it larger on my screen. I just hit control and I used the scroll to make it bigger. Can you see it?
Other direction.
Just reduced it.
Oh, yeah.
The magnifying glass at the bottom right has the plus symbol and you can use it.
Okay, yep. You see it?
Nope.
A couple more up,
Going.
probably two more. And then scroll down.
Okay, hold on a moment. Better?
Yeah.
Not really.
Are we gonna get copies of this? Or could we
I
just
think
get
it's in the packet.
It's in the packet. It's in the packet.
Okay.
I didn't know if all the documents that you're
Scrolling all the way
signing.
to the end.
It's
Let's
200
see.
pages.
I know, maybe it is.
What can you see?
It's so small from our perspective.
Just can't read the
We
numbers.
can't read the numbers, so I can read them if they want.
How about if we,
It's not that we don't trust you, but it means they can't see it at home either.
right, exactly. How about if I do this? Hold on.
Oh, do you want me to share it?
Oh, that's better. Like, if you just show a section of
Yeah,
it.
section by section would be okay, just so they can see,
Okay.
because it's just so small on the screen.
I'm trying to do it. Hold on a moment. Let me just bear with me while I get the sections. Okay, so can you see the 75,425,000?
Yes.
Okay. So the $75,425,000 is the amount that we needed to fund the projects. We applied the premium of $6,510,000 to it, so we ended up with a par value that we borrowed of $68,915,000. That's how we get to the $915,000. Let me get to the section that I want to show you. So, can you see this section here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, of the $68,915,000, $4,843,000 was used to finance 4 general fund projects, all with a 10-year term. We had $1,385,000 for the Birch Meadow Complex Phase 2 project, which will be completed in May or June of 2026. We had the 2 high school fieldhouse floor bleacher replacement and house improvement projects totaling $2,676,500. This is the amount that we bid for last year, $3 million. We're going to pay that back with this refinancing.
Okay.
And then the 4th project is the $781,500 for the pickleball courts. Okay, we go over here. So the remaining proceeds will be used to fund the first tranche of the excluded debt projects. In determining how much to borrow for the excluded debt projects, we had to make our best estimate based on the cash flows provided while taking into consideration the burden to the taxpayer. This is why we're borrowing in tranches, as Sharon mentioned. In addition, we had to be cognizant of the arbitrage spending requirements. If we don't spend 100% of the proceeds within 2 years, we'll have to return some of the interest earned on the monies, which we don't want to do that. So for the first tranche of the Killam School project, we're borrowing $50 million, but when it's reduced by the premium, it's $46,293,000. That's over a 20-year term. Borrowing $50 million, we're at more than half of our locus share. But again, we don't know whether the project costs will go over or under until we, start until the construction phase begins. So again, we use the cash flow schedule, which includes the estimated MSBA reimbursement amounts. These funds are expected to be exhausted in June 2027, I believe, according to the cash flow schedule. The first tranche of the, the first tranche of the recal will be totaling $20 million, but when it's reduced by the premium, we're only going to borrow $17,779,000. Since the Reading Center for Active Living is on a faster timeline, we're borrowing a significant amount of the project and leaving about $8 million as these contingencies built into the cash flow. The first principal payment will be due on October 15th, 2026 for $1,820,000. I do have the tax impact, so let me pull that up. I'll stop sharing the screen.
So Sharon, may I?
Yes.
So is that why it won't hit our tax bill till January, because we make the payment and then we bill ourselves?
So we hadn't borrowed yet, so we just borrowed now. So in order for it to have appeared on this year's bill, we would have already had to have borrowed. We did that internal borrowing to kind of give people some reprieve and let the ones that the excluded debt fall off, let them see some savings.
I know, but we're talking about recal right now, and she's just said right, so we're just talking about the bigger borrowing.
But we did the internal borrowing for both to kind of line this up so that these wouldn't hit until 27. And so, that's what she's showing you now is what is that first debt payment looking like?
Right.
Yeah, that she's showing she showed on the screen, the 1.8 to $1,820,000 is that debt payment that she's going to have in October. So it's not really about the timing of the actual debt payment. Well, it is the timing of the debt payment in terms of what fiscal year it is, but we hadn't borrowed yet. That's why you don't see anything on your tax bill.
No, I understand that, but still, we're borrowing when? This week? Next week? And
You're approving the borrowing tonight. We already kind of got the bids and you're just approving it.
When does the cash hit our account?
When does the cash hit the account? I think it's like next week.
December 18th.
Yes, that's what I mean. It just seemed like a lot for a lot of people, and that's why I'm bringing it up again. that we don't owe a payment on it for 9 months, and
We
it is
pay-
what it
At
is.
6 months, we pay interest, so we will
Okay,
pay an
so
interest.
even
rate.
6 months,
Yeah.
but,
And then you get your principal payment that they lined up for October.
so why wouldn't, well, so you know the principal payment's coming, but we wouldn't see it in our late fall bill?
Because you have to know about it when you're getting your tax rate set. We don't,
Okay,
we didn't
okay.
have any, all that
Yeah,
has to be in your
okay.
tax recap so
Okay,
that they know that you're charging your residents something above and beyond the Prop 2.5, and it's
Okay.
something that's been approved, so they'd need to see all of this. This would have
Complicated.
already have had to be done,
Yeah,
and we would have
okay.
had to have a debt schedule for them to allow us to put it on your tax bill.
okay. Got it. Thank you.
So if anyone is paying attention at home, it's page 83 in the packet. I found it, so her previous slide was in there.
And so what I have on the screen now is the estimated tax impact. So as Sharon mentioned, while she was going over our debt service schedule, the first debt service payment totals $5,195,836. The net tax impact is $590.59, which is $399.62 as it pertains to Killam, and $190.98 as it pertains to Recal.
For an average valuation of 900.
Yes, on an average evaluation of
She's breaking it
892,
down
which is the
by
amount that we use.
100 if you wanted to figure it
Yeah,
out if yours
no,
wasn't
it's
yet.
great, thank you. We might wanna boost that to $1 million. Cause like, let's be realistic. I just rather, yeah, I don't wanna
I've had people
I don't wanna
already ask me for
sugarcoat
the
it.
estimate. I've given it at least a couple times already that
Yeah.
people have contacted me.
Yeah,
Also, touching on what Sharon was speaking about earlier regarding the interest, if we moved Killam from a 15-year loan to 20 years, that'd be an additional $42 million of interest. If we moved it to a 25-year, that would have been an additional $61 million in interest,
if you kept
just for
it
Killam.
term.
Very
Yep.
telling. It
Yep.
was obnoxious.
I know, we refinanced all our other debt though, so it's like, I'm just saying, you're right, that's how mortgages work. But a lot of people pay ahead of time.
Yeah.
Or refinance.
Is that it?
Any questions?
Thank you.
She's done because I interrupted.
Carlo, did you have anything before we?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thanks. There's no public comment, as far as I know, unless someone randomly is online.
Public.
Anybody? Nothing? We're all good? Thank you for putting this together. Like I mentioned, that's page 83 in the packet for what we went over, which is fairly significant, obviously. So do you have a motion, Karen?
Move to approve the vote for the issuance of the town's $68,915,000 general obligation municipal purpose loan of 2025 bonds dated December 18th, 2025, as prepared by bond counsel.
Second.
Seconded by Karen Herrick. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Carlo.
Yes.
Karen Rose Gillis.
Yes.
Karen Herrick.
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes.
And Chris, yes. 5-0.
There's a bunch of
Perfect.
things to sign that Karen has.
And then before we adjourn, we just briefly mentioned that we have to schedule like the separate meeting before the end of the year. We can do a poll or whatever,
Yes, yeah.
but it can't be next Tuesday because Melissa's out. So maybe next Wednesday or Thursday is what we're looking at
Right.
in terms of schedule.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that's it.
So you guys have to sign.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want me to sign it and pass them along? Or?
Yeah, that's what I think we would do.
Yeah.
If it comes back to me, I'll check and make sure.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Melissa, seconded by Karen Herrick. Roll call, Carlo.
Yes.
Karen Rose Gillis.
Yes.
Karen Herrick.
Yes.
Melissa.
Yes.
And Chris, yes. 5-0. We are.
Yeah, yeah. Oh.